Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMails24, Unamento, M Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealand, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
That's not how it's done. It requires the 90 degrees. It cannot be done on the ball.
Yeah. So it's like so basic and so simple, and it's like they just dance around it. No, we don't need a baseline, but then they confess to the baseline because they say it's over a small space, and it's like just flip-flopping back and forth.
Yeah, they made it too much
Morning.
academic, so the layman
Morning.
cannot understand it.
Yeah, it seems like.
But then they're using imaginary tangent lines, but because they don't actually say they're not actually using the actual surface of the Earth, even though they're navigating the surface of the Earth. But an imaginary tangent line will do just fine.
But I can't say they can't understand it, because I remember sometimes there's some things in my life where I was like, they made perfectly good sense to me at one point, but now I'm like, they don't make any sense. How did I even think that? And good morning to whoever said good morning.
We hear you, Neil.
Anybody?
Yeah, we hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Hi, guys.
I know you. Hey, I don't know what the conversation is, but I wanted to see if anybody caught the chat yesterday with Dr. Becky.
We're going to be
waited
covering.
for silence.
We're going to be covering it today. After part 3 of destroying flat Earth without using science hyphen. Oh, this is part 4. Where's part 3?
No, 3.
Well, this says it's part 4. And I clicked on part 3 in the link.
No, I didn't. Did he come up with a part 4? Well, that was part.
I don't know.
3.
It says part 4 on it.
Do a little research. I'll be back.
Should we just do this one? So what if we missed 3? It doesn't really matter, does it? Let's be honest. Should we do this?
Merge together, don't they?
I'm talking to 10th. God, can no one keep up with who's being talked to? That should be clearer. 10th. Should we just start with this one?
Yes. Yes, typo. It could be just to be. Let's just go with it.
Hey everyone, so in this little series, I've been demonstrating that the Earth isn't flat without using any science.
So let's cover that straight away. He couldn't cover it as being round with science. There is no science for this. At multiple points during his discussion, he's brought up things like phenomena, which is definitely within the remit of science. So he doesn't know what science is because he's describing natural phenomena, something that is within the purview of science, whilst claiming that he's doing this without covering anything to do with science. Now, he's not following the scientific method, but he wasn't doing that if he was claiming science. So just get that out of the way. Immediately there's an issue.
Simply by looking at things like the moon and stars and airline flights. But believe it or not, there's an even easier way to prove that Flat Earth is the dumbest hoax on the internet.
Well, you say that, but you've used flat Earth maps and models to use as strawmen when they're actually globe projections that have come from elevation angle measurements that are only acquirable from a flat plane. So all of the strawmen you held up so far, if this is part 3 or 4, we're not exactly sure, but that doesn't matter. You've used a flat plane the entire time. It's the only way you can get elevation angle measurements to the stars. So it's you're describing things in the sky like the stars, which are used for navigation with, angles. That's requiring a flat baseline. There's no other way to do that. So I don't know why you think you've annihilated the flat Earth at this point. It's just because you're ignorant of the nonsense you've been handed by your researchers.
Which involves no observations of any kind, and that is to examine the conspiracy itself.
I don't know if I want to do this one. Maybe we should cover part 3, because him going through this is flat Earth in quotes, right? This isn't how I can disprove with straw men what the flat Earth isn't by way of a stereotyping fallacy. This is going to be what he's going to sum up about the community that I don't necessarily feel a part of. So I don't know. Should we do this? I think we are.
Keep going.
So to begin, let's remind ourselves of what flat Earth priests would have you believe.
I don't know about priests. Are there any priests within flat Earth? Or comparable to priests in the church or in heliocentrism? Let me get it straight. Priests of flat Earth would suggest that the azimuthal equidistant north-centric projection, which is a globe projection, is our world. No, Dave. That's you holding up a stereotyping straw man fallacy in what? Where's the priest saying this? Where's a flat earther priest saying that this is the world we live on? So I can call him an idiot and say he's reifying this model. Because at this point, it's just you doing it. You're reifying this globe projection. So if this fails, I'm just going to say, globe projection. Yeah, I mean, we need elevation angle measurements to come from a flat baseline. That goes without saying. That's how navigation's done. So yeah, we're going to end up using a flat surface or a flat map. But this isn't it. This is just a crappy globe projection that fails. Why are you telling us that this is a flat Earth when it's obviously a globe projection? And you wouldn't have any of the lines on it if it wasn't for elevation angle measurements to stars that require a flat baseline. So I don't know what you're burning here. If it isn't a globe projection, I don't know what it is, because I don't claim this. I wouldn't call myself a priest, though.
They tell a story of how the most powerful...
So are these the flat Earth priests? This cartoon? This is what you're justifying your stereotyping straw man fallacy with? This cartoon? These are the people? No, they're not. Are you an idiot? Do you not know the difference between people and cartoons? These aren't people, these aren't priests.
People in the world over the past several thousand years have...
Oh, here we go. He's back to talking about people thousands of years ago. Oh, here we go. We've got eyes wide shut.
Conspired to convince its citizens that what they live on is a different shape than what it really is.
I'd agree. Absolutely correct, because you think you're on a sphere when navigation proves that you can only move along a flat baseline if you're measuring it as such. That's how your model that you've tried to burn as a flat Earth straw man was devised, by way of elevation angle measurements to all of the celestial bodies. That's what you're using them for to navigate. So when you say there's been a conspiracy to convince the world that it's a shape, well, yeah, it's not a shape. It's a plane. That's how we deal with it. But you think it's a shape. So, yeah, this is you. You're talking about you.
Beginning as a simple lie, it slowly ballooned in scope, culminating in the 21st century landscape we are now familiar with.
So what's this? This is a picture of a bent horizon, formerly known as the geometric sphere edge horizon, at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as photographed from a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. Oh, definitely not. See this black area? If that was a 10 to the minus 17 Torr vacuum, as is claimed from these satellite imagery from space, well then all of this high pressure gas would immediately vacate into the black area. If it was a vacuum 10 to the minus 17 Torr, as is claimed to be the case in outer space. High pressure gas doesn't just sit happily next to vacuum. That doesn't happen. It's a violation of natural law. So no, this is definitely not the world you're claiming it is, with this lie that you've been presented to believe that the world's a shape.
Where every single celestial phenomenon, every field of science, and every aspect of technology must revolve around this spectacular lie.
If you knew what phenomenon was, you'd understand that it fits within the purview of scientific inquiry. That would be to say a phenomena is something that's occurring in nature that you want to know the cause of. Therefore, you can study the cause by putting it through the scientific method developed by those philosophers that you mentioned in video 2. So, yeah, there is methodology to establish cause of phenomenon. You just take phenomena and start making up little stories, just like Becky will do later when we cover her nonsense stories that she makes up after looking at stuff in the sky. But if it's a phenomena, you can put it through the scientific method.
Trillions of dollars are spent every year on fake space missions.
Is he declaring this to the audience because he's doing a better job than I can? That's right. They don't go to a sky vacuum. If they can go to a sky vacuum, then gas, which expands in all directions at high velocities, can also go to the sky vacuum. And it would. All of it. Instantaneously. It's a law of nature, the second law of thermodynamics. It's called entropy. It's dispersion. That's what gas does when it meets a vacuum. Disperses into it. Because it's got nothing to hit and bounce off of. To press on. So yeah, this is absolutely correct. They've spent millions of dollars lying about a shape that we haven't got. It's just not flat. Not that that's a shape, that's an aspect. The aspect we measure.
And paying off an unthinkable number of people, an army of shills, all to keep the deception going.
No, that's where you're wrong. Most people within NASA don't know that they're lying to the general public. They're just doing a general menial task that's compartmentalized into all oblivion so that nobody knows what anybody else is doing or why they're doing it. They're told to colour in a picture of Earth, so they colour it in, if that's their skill set. Meanwhile, astronauts... Notice we've got a very different view of Earth in this CGI with this... What's this little layer? Would this be the gas pressure, the high pressure gas that we're breathing, next to a high vacuum at 10 to the minus 17 torr? You see that? It's an ad. Would be a very different representation because it shows this thin layer of gas not dispersing into a sky vacuum. So why is this image so different to Dave's imagery, CGI also? Well, it's because it's nonsense. You can't take imagery like this from a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. There is no black area with high pressure gas not filling it. It's a violation of natural law.
So you've taken up running. Apple Watch has taken up a few new things as well.
That's good to know.
This is nothing short of the deepest and most well-orchestrated plot humanity has ever conjured.
I don't know about plot. It's the way the world is, and I can't divine the motivation of the people who are disseminating the lies, including the astronauts who most assuredly are lying. They're not in a sky vacuum. They're not floating around in a presupposed orbit. Just because you've been told it's okay and acceptable to beg the question of hemispherical orbits. Yeah? That doesn't mean that it's so. That's a begging the question fallacy that they lie about. It's a violation of natural law that they lie about. That's astronauts. As for the rest of NASA, no. Not paying off people to be shills. Most people in NASA are honest. I wouldn't dare accuse them of lying. Why would I? The only people who are the people who are claiming to be in a sky vacuum.
It represents a level of cost, coordination, and airtight secrecy that seems utterly impossible.
So what, because it seems impossible? You think that the deception of a sphere Earth that you're not standing on or measuring or building on isn't possible? It is. That's the world you live in. In the same way a couple of 100 years ago, everybody was being told that the world was heaven and that there was angels in it, and everybody accepted it unless they were going to be burnt at the stake for heresy. So, yeah, that's just the way the world is. You've got a religion. It's called heliocentrism. It's the current one world religion, and you believe in it wholeheartedly and couldn't possibly believe that anyone would ever lie to you about it. Well, wake up and smell the coffee, Dave. Yeah, they do definitely tell you that the world's a sphere. You haven't gone to space because you can't. It's not real. You haven't checked for anything you could verify the Earth to be a sphere with. We've debunked. Earth being a sphere at radius 3959 would have a geometric horizon. We've debunked it. So there's no way you can prove this to yourself, but it's beyond imagination to believe that you've been lied to. Yeah, you're just smug. Yeah, arrogant. You can't possibly fathom the idea that you've been lied to about stuff. Yeah, because you're not stupid enough to be lied to? That's all this is. Yeah, it's easy to lie to people. People do it every day, all day. But you're what, smarter than every other person on the whole planet? According to you, that's a sphere? Yeah, no, you're not. You've been deceived into belief that it's a planet. And whether or not it's had hundreds of millions of pounds to do it is irrelevant. You've been deceived.
But then again, the stakes are high. What is the payoff for all this effort?
Control. Control over you. Like they've got.
What do these ultra-elites gain by filling the sheeple's heads with images of globes and
Same as any other religion. Control. That's what religious groups exercise. Control. Yeah? That's what this is.
outer space? The answer is
Control. Control over you. You're doing this as a byproduct of the religious belief you hold.
nothing.
Oh, really? So why are you making this video? If it achieves nothing, why would you feel it necessary to challenge it in any way, shape or form? It's achieved you making this bloody video. So, absolutely incorrect. It achieves control. You and your worldview are decided for you. You have no input. It's all been figured out already. Therefore, you don't need to concern your precious little head about it. Just go and research what you're being told about a place you'll never visit. A place that doesn't exist. A place that violates natural law. But what? Shocking. They're going to tell you about places that are up in the sky like heaven that aren't real. Oh, it's never happened before. Heaven forbid that they tell you what the sky is. Yeah, they're just telling you what heaven is, mate. Your heaven is planets and sky vacuums. What? But it's shocking that they'd lie about heaven? No, not at all, mate. I've been doing it forever.
Yep, that's right. Nothing whatsoever.
Other than control of you, like all religious exercising control groups always, and that's what they do. You're just in the heliocentric version of that, with your heaven being planets.
There is absolutely nothing that anyone could gain from telling this lie.
I am not an automaton. I am in no way under control. As he puts up a picture that's definitely not a photograph of a second law of thermodynamics violation globe in a black area 10 to the minus 17 Tor if it was real. That's why this isn't a photograph. It's about as real as these little pictures down here. Because if it was real, all of this high pressure gas would immediately vacate into the 10 to the minus 17 Tor vacuum. But there is nothing for my rulers to gain by keeping me under control.
Flat Earth priests themselves typically don't even bother offering a rationale as to the motive.
Sorry, we should divine their motivation. I've told you, control. That is fact. We are kept under control. Yeah, that's a fact. You dispute it, then you're an idiot. If you don't think that you think you're a free man, you clown? No. I don't need to divine their motivation. I don't need to divine why astronauts lie about being in a sky vacuum. I couldn't care less. I took the piss out of you for divining the motivation of people 1,000 years ago with your crystal ball, though, didn't I? Because you can divine what people thought and felt 1,000 years ago, can't you, Dave? But what, because I don't, because I'm not a bonehead, you're going to criticise me for not divining the motivations of others?
For the few that do, what do they say?
For the few that divine the motivation of others? I think we should, invite along some clown music before we get what they divine the thoughts of others to be.
Some of them say it's to hide God.
Oh, really? No, I can answer that with the ontological primitives. Your version of God in your religion is a Big Bang. So nature creating itself. That's a first law of thermodynamics violation. Energy cannot be created? Oh, what, but it all created itself? No, my friend, and there's only one alternative. An external force created the stuff we experience. There you go. That was dealt with pretty quickly. I didn't claim that they're doing this to hide God. I claimed that they are keeping you under control with a religion.
Seriously. This is very dumb as
Really? What, but the sky having floating rocks millions of miles away based on our measurements you can't get and sitting in violation of natural law that you've never visited? That's not ludicrous? I think you'll find it is. Sky vacuums? Rocks flying around in them? No, my friend, that's absolutely absurd.
Any god who is so weak that it can be hidden by its own creations is clearly not worth worshipping.
No. Ontological primitives, my friend. Nature can't poof itself into existence. Your religion, that's heliocentrism, has a Big Bang. That's nature violating the first law of thermodynamics. Yeah, that's a law of nature. So, what, nature's going to violate its own laws of nature? No, definitely not.
Also, if that was the plan, then it totally didn't work, since most people in the world do believe in some kind of god.
So what? Non sequitur fallacy. Doesn't prove the shape of the earth. Doesn't divine the motivations of others. But we are definitely being kept under control and have been for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, with plenty of examples of people telling what the sky was. So they didn't have to ask questions about it. And if they had any, they could go to the priests to answer it. What's that you say, Neil deGrasse Tyson? Time dimension bending geodesics in space-time. That's the sky. Fourth dimensional geodesic space-time bending. Gravity. Einstein's maths. That's the sky. Yeah? Heaven forbid they tell us what the sky is. I mean, it's obviously angels. Or maybe it's the bloody lions in The Lion King. Because no, nobody tells anybody what the sky is to keep them under control.
Others insist that it's all about some form of control.
Absolutely, without question.
But again, this is stupid.
Really? Here we go, cut to the view of a second law of thermodynamics violation you're about to defend. So here we have high-pressure gas not dispersing into a vacuum, violating the second law of thermodynamics, but he's going to tell me that he's not kept under control. I'm pretty sure you're making my example for me here, Dave.
Beyond not offering any tangible control,
You've just put up a second law of thermodynamics violation and a puzzled face in the sky vacuum that the gas isn't filling.
need such a huge conspiracy to...
You wouldn't need a huge conspiracy to get you to believe that the sky was a vacuum, or that this is geodesic bending space-time. That's what you think this is. You're being told by your priests, that's Tyson, definitely comparable to a priest, with his little wizard costume. He's telling you this is 10 to the minus 17 to a vacuum and men fly around in it like Superman. That's what you believe. Okay? Well, that's nonsense. It violates natural law. Laws of nature. Gas-filled space, mate. If it's got nothing to press on, this gas about here-ish doesn't go, nah, you know what? I'm not going to carry on moving away from the ground where I was created at a high velocity. I'm just going to stop here. Yeah, sod it. Natural law, who cares? Yeah, they've got you well and truly under control, mate. To the point where you don't exercise any critical thought about the things you parrot. Yeah, they've got you well and truly under control, Dave. I've no doubt.
To control a people anyway.
No, it's not about people standing in line with Kim Jong-il.
Look at any authoritarian dictatorship.
They presumably tell them that the world's something or other as well, and presumably lie to them about what the sky is also.
North Korea does this wonderfully by restricting liberties, internet access, and using forced labor and executions.
And that doesn't happen to you? Okie dokie.
Voila, a brainwashed people under strict control.
This is a non sequitur. It's not comparable. We're talking about mental control of people's paradigm by way of a religious belief about the sky. You've not visited the sky vacuum. You've not visited space. You've not seen men flying around in it, and it's a violation of natural law. But here you are defending it and comparing it to dictatorships.
As for most of the rest of us, we do pretty much whatever we want. We have to have...
Do you? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that you're now out to list off all of the exceptions that keep you well and truly under control.
Jobs, and we get into credit card debt and...
So credit card debt, there's a nihilistic view of the world where it doesn't really matter, who cares? We're a tiny little speck of dust in an infinite sea of nothing, so what does it matter if I get into a shitload of debt? We're insignificant nothing, so it doesn't matter, my life's not that important. I don't need to concern myself too much with these things. Life isn't really that important. Being that we're an insignificant speck of dust floating around in an infinite 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum with gas not expanding into it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that people have that attitude because of the futile life they think they lead when they're kept under control in a heliocentric paradigm that makes them worthless. They're a speck of dust, Dave, in your world. Absolutely insignificant. You think they need to worry about that? Oh, who cares? They're just a speck of dust in an infinite vacuum.
Banks have too much power, yada, yada, yada. But
yada, yada, yada? All right, that seems like you're hand-waving past that little detail, that you're completely controlled by the financial structures you work within. Who do you think controls them? Definitely not the people talking about sky vacuums.
The shape of the...
Cut to the sky vacuum.
Earth has nothing to do with it.
Oh, really? But they're not the same groups and individuals and governments that disseminate this complete horseshit. You don't think the Queen of England is holding a globe with a cross on it, being the head of the church? I'm pretty sure that these things are all very much intertwined. She meets with all of these heads of state. That's her job. But you don't think this is a control structure? My God, you're naive.
And lying about the shape of the Earth would give no one any advantage or any measure of control whatsoever.
No, so there's no point in the priests telling you what the sky is. There's no point in them telling you that it's angels so that you don't question what it is or look for yourself. Because you're being told what it is by a priest. And now you're telling me this is 10 to the minus 17 to a vacuum with high pressure gas not filling it in violation of natural law because you're not kept under control. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you are, Dave.
Whatsoever. There is no wealth to be lost if people were to find out the Earth.
Wealth? What's that? The financial structures that you are controlled by and live within? Those things? Nothing to be gained within the structures of control you're detailing? You clown?
Earth is flat, nor is there any power to be gained by the masses through.
By the masses? No, the power isn't held by the masses, you stupid idiot. It's held by the few, not the many. Is this guy really this stupid? I'll throw this open to the panel at this point. Is this guy really this thick?
Yes, yeah, I think so. It's funny how he's just making all these claims. And claims are the very reasons they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, he's exposing himself.
If his to be lost. How much does NASA get?
Breaking it, by the way, 10th.
He's talking a lot, but he's not really saying anything.
His hand waving stuff that he's strawmanning people with. He's been doing it from the first video.
Because you know, if his intellect were to reflect what he looks like, I could just imagine like the red and white undies on his head as he's saying all of this. You know, the Power Ranger. Like he can't. There's so many fallacies and what he's saying is ridiculous.
Okay, you've got some sort of compressor or something on your mic, Eli. It just keeps getting really loud, then really quiet. It's really irritating. Anyway, we're going to move on.
Through such a revelation. Speaking strictly socially, nothing would change. So the idea that people are spending trillions of dollars per year to push such a lie is idiotic. Nobody spends that kind of money for literally no reason.
Right. So given that they have spent that money, and the purpose is to convince you of what the sky is, and you're now disseminating that nonsense straight back to us, and claiming there's no control, it's just like the slave telling you that he's not in slavery. It's nonsense. If you don't appreciate the bondage that you're in, you're not going to be able to justify how somebody tells you you're in bondage, because you're going to defend every bit of it. You started by talking about the financial systems and the banks. You're just making apologies because mentally you've obviously processed this and realised that that is a control structure, but then you've immediately defended it as though it's not. So at this point, I actually feel a little bit sorry for him because he's not that sharp. You know, he's not exercised any critical thought, but deep down there is some there because he feels he needs to make. Maybe it's just the scriptwriter. Maybe it's just his researcher. Let's not give him too much credit.
But that's not all. Let's more thoroughly explore the social ramifications of this.
I don't prefer to. I mean, I'd prefer to just focus on what it's benefited with me with. Now I know where I've been lied to. It doesn't necessarily mean I can give you the answer to what the sky is, but it means that I do question what the sky is, which means that there's a potential to find out what the sky is. And genuinely, that's quite exciting. Now, like in the Truman Show, when the reel gets pulled down with the map and he tells the explorer story to the teacher, I want to be an explorer, it's already been all discovered. Right, so there's no possibility of anything beyond what you've been told by your priests. It's all nicely wrapped up on a ball, whereas there's an infinite possibility of more land and whatever the sky has to offer if we don't know. That's exciting. So me and my reflections on it is what I try and get others to focus on. No, how does this affect you? Are you now exercising critical thought to things like the banking system rather than defending it as not a system of control? Because if so, then you've benefited. If not, then, oh well, that's not my problem. Socially, as a whole, it's beyond my control. I don't want to be the leader of some group But there are groups that are led by, science. Because they've got pseudoscience stories attached to the claim of empiricism where they don't have any.
First up, the sciences. If the Earth is flat instead of roughly spherical and all of space is fake, there are several scientific disciplines that must be deemed fraudulent from top to bottom.
Right, science isn't disciplines, it's a method that particular disciplines can or cannot adhere to, and if they claim science and haven't adhered to the method, they're no longer science. It's just that simple. Hey, Adam. Hello? Can you hear us?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Very echoey.
Quick mic check. Is this a little better?
Yeah. I'm sure it won't be. Right, should we do a bit more Dave when we go live? And then we'll move on to Becky.
Yeah, and I also popped up part 3. It's on the airplanes. Sorry to get them out of order.
Yeah, we'll do part 3 at a different time. For now, we'll cover this until we get to the end of it, and then we'll move on to Dr. Becky.
We should fly by that one.
Nice. I'm sure you just winged it.
It was a nice video I posted for you guys last night.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Refracted Curvature, the Adam Meakin, Eli, Neil, 10th Man, Brian's Logic, Righteous Force, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, how's
Hey,
everyone going? What did you say, John?
I had a pun I was wanting to sneak in on there at the end, about Professor Dave doing planes. I was like, what's up with these Glovers needing planes to prove a sphere?
They don't. They've got mathematics that claims that there's a sphere edge horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height of feet called Earth curve, blocking boats and buildings.
But that's below the plane of the surface.
That's correct. In their mathematics, it's below the plane of the surface, and that's absolutely required for things like elevation angle measurements. So it's nonsense. I mean, we don't have a sphere edge below Earth's surface level. It's absurd. But you can assert it with mathematics, and if you did, you'd assert that it's 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. If you ignore the fact that that's below surface level, then that's where the claim comes from. I.e., they say boats are being blocked by the horizon, which is Earth curve. Until January 1st, 2020, when it was debunked by the Black Swan. We have been doing a bit of Dave, and I've got to be honest, I'm getting a bit bored of him, but we're going to rattle our way through. I know we were just doing introductions and housekeeping, but as we want to rattle to the end of Dave, and we've gone to video 4, skipping video 3, which is what we were just discussing, we're just going to rattle through a bit more of this and then move on to Dr. Becky, who resurfaced on Andrew Gold's channel. I think that's the name of the channel. I'll have to double check that. A guy I've been recently watching some Scientology stuff on to get a better grip of what Scientology is. And because I've been watching him, although I wasn't subscribed, I am now, it offered me up Dr. Becky with him answering questions. So I went into their live chat and started taking apart every word that she said as she said it. Brilliant stuff. We'll go through that next. So everyone keen to go through Dave? We all keen to just continue where we left off in the pre-show? Wow. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. Yeah.
Getting absolutely
Yeah,
zero
let's move on.
from G plus, zero response.
I can hear you, Nathan.
Thank you, Brian. Let's do it.
First, geology. All geologists know the Earth is a sphere, so they must all be liars.
Do they? They all know it's a sphere, or do they have measurements of the self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? See, when we ask for the evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, we get offered our measurements, which we've debunked, and we get offered P waves and S waves that require a flat Earth and got the predictions wrong when the Kola deep borehole was dug. So we don't have any evidence from geology. What's he talking about? Anybody know what he's talking about?
Do you think the insertion of the R value is what made their predictions incorrect?
I don't know. They're taking measurements from a flat plane either way, so... A couple of quick shout-outs. Shout out to Michael Kahn, who I'm going to make a moderator. Michael Kahn says, one word for Nathan. The show and panel are ace. Oh, thank you for the support. That's not why I made him a moderator. He's just a good guy. Anyway, also shout out to Chronicles of the Unconvinced. Loving the show as always. Oh, thank you very much indeed also for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Smash the super chat if you do want to support this channel. There we go.
Then physics. Physicists know that gravity exists.
Like, gravity doesn't have an observed phenomena. Physicists deal with the physical. The physical and natural world, that's science. So if you're going to put this under the bracket of science and describe physics, that's natural phenomena. And the establishment of the cause thereof, that's science. But you're saying they know that gravity exists? No. Oh, really? Just knowing, right? Oh, okay, no. Unfortunately, gravity is not a force. It does not exist in physics because it's not a force. What it is the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time, devised by Einstein. Fourth dimensional geodesics in space-time. That is not physics. Now, if it was to be described as physics, first you'd have to have a natural phenomena to study. You don't. So definitely not. You don't know what science is, Dave.
Which it couldn't on a flat Earth. So
why are we talking about what it could or couldn't do on a flat Earth? Establishment of cause and effect by way of systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis after observing natural phenomena you want to know the cause of. Why are you comparing these concrete nouns? You complete clown, you don't know what science is.
So they're all shills too.
So what, shills? No. Science establishes the cause of an effect by way of systematic experimentation based on a phenomena. If you're following that method, then you're a scientist. And you've followed a scientific prediction to completion to validate it with an experiment. They're not shills. They're either following a method of science or they're not. If they're claiming science and they haven't followed method, then they're pseudoscientists. It's that simple.
Astronomy? You'd better believe it.
Astronomy? They don't have any hypothesis-based predictions. These aren't science either. We ask daily for any viable hypothesis from astronomy. There isn't any. We'll get to that if you're watching, Becky. We'll get to you.
All of space is fake, so anyone who studies space is a liar.
No, that's a non sequitur. You can look up at the stars through a telescope. I've done it myself. Wowee. But what outer space is described as is a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. Ergo, it is most assuredly fake because you can't have high pressure gas not dispersing in line with entropic law into a sky vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, by way of natural law, the gas would disperse into it. We'd have none left to breathe. We'd all be dead. So we're not just carte blanche saying space is fake. We're saying space, that's outer space, the sky vacuum, is, fact, a second law of thermodynamics violation. Entropy, gas fills space.
Everyone who talks about other planets, spacecraft, volcanoes, earthquakes.
Volcanoes? Earthquakes? No, we started off with spaceships. Those are space ships travelling in a sky vacuum. So, no, there are no ships in vacuums. If the sky was capable of travel via the gas pressure we all breathe and know is here, into an area of volume that the gas isn't filling, that's a violation of natural law. So there's definitely no spaceships. No, definitely not. Because if they can travel in a vacuum, so can the gas that moves at high velocity in all directions.
Earthquakes, Earth's atmosphere, Earth's...
Atmosphere? So it was like sphere-shaped air, atmo being air, sphere being a shape. You just told me that there couldn't possibly any scenario where leaders of the world convinced you of a shape of the world, but now you've just told me that air is arbitrarily sphere-shaped. You don't know how gas behaves, and you're just parroting off your priest's nonsense about sphere-shaped atmosphere, sphere-shaped air. No. Air, that's gases, take the shape of whatever containment they're in. They don't arbitrarily form sphere shapes. That's not how gas behaves. What's that? You couldn't be deceived into a shape, but your air is in a sphere shape? By way of this word you've just used, maybe you didn't realise that atmosphere is your way of begging the question. The air sits on the outside of a sphere, in a sphere shape, not filling the volume, in violation of all gas law. Definitely not, mate. You're just brainwashed into shapes by people that you can't fathom that they'd be lying to you.
Core or any...
Sorry a second, Nathan. He's bringing up... hello, everyone, by the way. He's bringing up things like volcanoes and earthquakes. These are real-world things that we have that really happen. He's just trying to hijack them and give the audience the impression that somehow that they are somehow reliant on the Earth being a globe. That if the Earth is not a globe, then earthquakes can't exist and volcanoes can't exist. That's his shtick.
Non sequitur.
It's pathetic. Yeah, it's like, no, we know those things exist in reality. What have they got to do with the argument? Nothing. It's like he has this belief that, like as he said, geology. Geology studies what? Earthquakes and volcanoes. And where were they for Haiti or for Turkey when they had those massive earthquakes? Where was geology then? They failed. You know why? Because they're holding on to something and telling the public that they have like P waves and S waves and stuff like that, and they have all these predictions. When it comes down to it, they never predict anything. What have they actually predicted that saved a whole city or a whole place? What if they ever did they save Haiti? Did they save anyone? What did they do? They always talk about it after the fact, but they never predict it. But because they believe that the Earth is a globe, they keep working off of the same narrative. And maybe if they weren't working off of that narrative, they might be able to predict some of these things instead of studying them after the fact. So that's what he's doing. He's taking real world things and he's hijacking them like they always do.
Anything even tangentially related to any of these topics must be in on it. This means two things.
No, I contradicted that already in the pre-show, but I'll repeat it again now. So, no, just because you work at NASA, for the sake of argument, doesn't mean that you're in on some massive conspiracy. Generally speaking, I would say that 99% of the people who work at NASA just do their job in the most diligent way that they can do it, and earn an honest, decent living doing it. Now, does that alter that there's people claiming to be in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum flying around like Superman? No. That's still a complete and total fraud and total lie, and the people perpetrating it know they're lying. That I can say without any hesitation. But as for the rest of the people in that particular organisation, no, I wouldn't dare call them liars. I wouldn't say that anybody who's even close to talking about volcanoes are in on the globe lie. No, definitely not. There's a handful of people that I can actually say are liars.
both of which are equally absurd. First, millions of scientists.
Millions of scientists? Millions of people establishing the cause of natural phenomena all over the world. You don't know what science is to shoehorn all of these people that you're going to label as scientists. So what are you talking about, millions of scientists? Are there even millions of experiments to have millions of scientists? I mean, maybe, but it just seems like an illogical connection when science is a method. So what you're saying, all the people who perform the scientific method? It just makes no sense when you contextualize it in real scientific terms.
All over the world, in dozens of different countries, whether working under their government, universities, or the private sector, are all somehow unified under one hidden entity, and not a single one of them is spilling the beans.
You don't know what science is, right? If you're a scientist, then it means that you've established the cause of a phenomena observed in nature by formulating a hypothesis, otherwise known as a scientific prediction, and then varying that which you presume caused the effect to see if it caused it. If you do cause the effect that you were studying in nature, then you've got the presumed cause validated, and therefore you've got scientific empiricism. So for all the people who do that, their end result for being quote-unquote scientists is that they have an empirical outcome based on the phenomena they studied when they were doing their scientific experimentation. Now that isn't going to be in any way connected or possible or feasible to connect in any way, shape or form to people having a unified idea about what the world is. All they can state, if they've done that method, is here's the cause of a phenomena in nature. It's been proven. Now typically that will then go forth to benefit humanity in various different ways. But that doesn't mean that they're going to talk amongst themselves like there's some unified group of scientists that talk about this shit. That only takes place in pseudoscience, where they all have their little ideas. We'll get to Becky later, when she sits around the coffee table talking about what dark matter might be. That's bullshit. That's what they're doing. They're literally sitting around talking to each other about what the possibilities of phenomena they've never even seen might be. Yet you think that they're scientists, because that's what people like Dr. Becky call themselves. Scientists. These pretender clown pseudoscientists that have never varied any independent variables to cause a phenomena they've studied. But they'll tell you all about what they think the world is and how much dark matter there isn't.
With Flat Earth, there are no Edward Snowdens. There are no Serpicos. Not a single one has come forward to offer a shred of insight as to how this Orwellian scheme is propagated.
Don't need to, just need to show how Earth's navigated. All of your maps and models that you presented... Go on.
Argument from silence.
Well, yeah, but there isn't any silence when we've got examples of people that say, no, I definitely use a flat plane to navigate. It can't be done any other way. Here's a dozen manuals showing you how you do it on a flat plane. It starts with angles, something that precludes all sphericity. Well, these aren't like whistleblowers. They're just people trying to get home when they're lost. In other words, they'd die if they didn't have a flat plane to measure beneath their feet. They need to whistle blow. They just need to get home safely. And what do to do it? Establish their position on a flat plane with circles of equal elevation and elevation angle measurements to celestial bodies that were used with the exact same angles to develop the maps they've got. These aren't whistleblowers.
Even the President of the United States, with all the power at his disposal, can't receive fellatio and keep it a secret. But
who cares? You think it's comparable to whether or not we know about Bill's blowjob compared to whether or not people successfully navigate the plane of the surface of Earth with maps developed with angles that could only be utilised to make the map flat? Because that's how it's measured and that's how it's plotted and that's how it's used after it's been devised. Nobody sat at sea lost holding a globe. Ever. Because there isn't a globe model that's functional for navigation. None of them are globe-shaped. Meanwhile, every time this sort of shit appears on screen, I say, you see this thin layer in this CGI computer-generated nonsense, non-photo, non-useful? This image has got high-pressure gas right next to a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. Now, we have entropy law. Gas expands in all directions to fill whatever space it has available. without exception. Therefore, if this area was a vacuum, this gas would want to piss off into it. That's what gas does. Yeah, this really is fun. I've got right back into it. I say we shouldn't do number 3, but really we should. So much fun. Dave's such a numpty.
But a
He's
scam.
wrong too, because there was a whistleblower, Matt Powerland.
Photo
who
or
kicked it
painting? Photorealism from Math Powerland,
Yeah.
having worked at NASA, according to him. Well, I suppose you could call NASA whistleblower Math Powerland an exception to that rule.
About the shape of the planet we all walk upon with millions of people in on it?
No, definitely not millions of people in on it. Just lots of people are under control like you. You don't have to misunderstand the difference between there being lots of people also fooled like you and them all being in on the lie. Yeah? The moment I figured out that we weren't on a sphere doesn't suddenly mean that when I was telling my cousin, or niece rather, about how the planetary motions worked, that I was lying to her or in on a lie. It just meant that I was ignorant of the truth and having been controlled by a system. That's what it actually means. Yeah, then I relinquished those shackles. Well, okay, for you can't even comprehend the notion of being deceived. Yeah? And when you do, you put it out onto the masses that have been deceived and say they couldn't all be in on it. No, they're all deceived. They're all under control, though. By the few, not the many.
No problem.
So you've taken up running. Apple Watch has taken up a few new...
Second, since literally anyone can become a scientist,
You can become a scientist. You just need to exercise cause and effect reasoning within a scientific prediction, aka a hypothesis actualized in a scientific experiment, and validating the cause of your effect. So, anybody could do that.
there has to be a specific point in the academic process where all the new shills are inducted.
No, the academic process. So you think that anybody can be a scientist so long as they've gone through an academic process? Don't have to go through any academic process. Observe a phenomena in nature and go, oh, I wonder what caused that. Then there is an extra step we very rarely mention, which is to check out if anybody else has already asked that question and figured it out for you, because then you don't really need to do anything else. They've already done it. What you can then do is validate their experiment. So a bit of research is really step 1, once you've seen something in nature and asked why it happens. But if nobody's answered that question, why does that happen? Then you can start presuming causes of that effect and putting them into a scientific prediction. If my presumed cause is varied, then the effect I'm studying will happen. Conversely, you have, if I vary my presumed cause of the effect I'm studying, then it won't induce the effect I'm studying. That's called a null hypothesis. It was developed by philosophers many years ago to offer empiricism, because both statements can't hold true. A cannot simultaneously cause B and not cause B at the same time. So if A, then B, and if A, not B, are mutually exclusive. So once you vary A and see if it causes B, it either does or doesn't, and you validate, that's prove, one or other of those predictions. That's the scientific method. So there's no process of going through academia and getting educated into the control system you can't see in order to validate or invalidate a presumed cause of an effect you've observed in nature. Anybody can do the scientific method, and there's no need to go through this indoctrination process to do it. But you think that that's what makes a scientist, don't you, Dave? Going through the indoctrination process rather than validating cause of an effect.
So when is that exactly?
Never, because you don't need to go through this nonsense that you're holding up because you can't recognise a control system when you see it.
Is it second year of graduate school?
Graduate school's got nothing to do with varying and manipulating that which you presume caused an effect you saw in nature. You don't know what science is, Dave. You think science is made from people going through schools, when it's actually people varying and manipulating a presumed cause of an effect they saw in nature to see if it did or didn't cause it. That's what actual science is. It doesn't require any academia or being in a first, second, third, fourth. It doesn't need any of that. For the 7th year in a row, Oklahoma strawman building contest was won by Team Glober, says Godzilla37. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat.
He's just trying to hijack what people view as science. That's what he's trying to do with his audience. He's just trying to hijack as much stuff as possible for the globe and try and make it out as if we're all just a load of crazy people who think that every scientist is some kind of a conspiracy. We have a conspiracy that every scientist and every engineer and every airline pilot are all in on some big scam. You know, this is because it's pathetic, but that's what he's been pumping out to his audience.
Where
That's
they
the
take all
strength
the
of his argument.
23-year-old kids to the Eyes Wide Shut sex mansion party, or is that only after you have a PhD?
Again, no, this is just a fantasy world that Dave lives in, where everybody who goes through university to be indoctrinated into parroting off second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuums, if they're studying astronomy, that somehow correlates with Eyes Wide Shut sex parties. No, Dave, I don't know what ever gave you that idea. Maybe you've been watching too many movies.
What about all the undergrads who are learning the lies and can see that something isn't adding up?
Sorry, learning the lies? No, this was prefaced with it being science. What would they be learning other than how to vary and manipulate that which they presume cause and effect they're studying in nature? They could be learning all sorts of crap about bending geodesics in geometry space-time. That's not science, though.
It's shocking, this. And there's a reason why this gentleman's so ill-informed, is that and he's making assumptions about what you learn and how you learn it at university, this gent had 2 failed goes to get to university, and yet now sits here with the title, pretense, obviously, Professor Dave, criticising those that have been, thinking he knows what they learn and how they learn it when they're there. Really worrying, and another clear demonstration, this guy is this is Dunning-Kruger at its best, this. Now talking about what you learn at a higher ed with his fake title. He's a
fraud.
Stunning plum, isn't he? This
Fraud.
Guy? Yeah, fraud is exactly, Nathan. Yeah, exactly.
But haven't been brought to the sex party yet.
Again, comparing the lack of your educational knowledge in higher education to sex parties. Yeah, I suppose that's what you maybe fantasised they might have been had you have ever done them.
Shouldn't any of them be asking questions?
I did have sex parties at college, by the way. That was something I did. I don't know if Dave did, but I had a great time at college. Just want to rub that in his face. Because he's obviously projecting his fantasies about what higher education might have been. For some people, it was actually like that, though, Dave. For me, it was.
Art college, it was. Some
yeah,
of us
it was for Adam too.
Well, look with jealousy at your lot.
Either way, just thought I'd rub that in.
Exactly where is the line between shill and innocent? And wouldn't any of those students fast approaching that line be making YouTube videos about it? They'd be rich and famous after.
I mean, would you not agree that this is kind of his justification and argument for him being a shill by his own standards? Because once I point out that you are disseminating the nonsense lies of the control structure wholeheartedly and freely, therefore you are a puppet for that control structure. You're just an unwitting shill, otherwise known as a useful idiot.
After all. Moving on, it's not all about academia either. Let's go to the federal.
It wasn't at all about academia. You didn't prove that somehow it's correlatable with flat earthers you stereotyped and didn't present as claiming this, saying that academia have been trained to shill the globe. This is absolutely absurd, Dave.
Level. As much as flat earth priests pretend that NASA is the only...
Which flat earth priests would they be that pretend... Let's just do the rest of the sentence.
...game in town when it comes to space exploration.
NASA being the only game in town. There is no game and there is no town. Because there is no space, it violates natural law. So what, you say that there's other people who've jumped onto this profitable bandwagon of lying to people about what the sky is? Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, it's not that we don't acknowledge there aren't other liars who've cottoned on, and have also, with a lot of power and control and money to do so, also started perpetuating this nonsense out to the rest of the people, and therefore gaining some control. Right? Elon Musk's one of them. Yeah, we know. Yeah, he's fighting with all the power and might and money that he can possibly muster to gain some control over the world. That's his purpose in life. Yeah? I mean, unless I'm just way off mark here. He doesn't want control of anything, really. He's cool. He's just going to give that control to you, Dave. You complete spastic.
NASA isn't even the only space agency.
There's no space. Having an agency doesn't make the sky a vacuum.
About a dozen others around the world.
Yeah, we've seen the crap CGI footage that JAXA presents that we very rarely get to see in the actual Western world because it's so low quality. And us with our slightly more discerning 4K imagery and high-def pictures on big screens would look at the JAXA crap from space and go, this really, really looks fake. Because it is. It can only be fake from every single one of these agencies because they can't travel out past gas pressure. How do they go through the gas pressure? How is that possible? At what point do they go past it? The point that it's pressing on something to come back down again? No, there isn't any barrier for any of these agencies to traverse to hold the gas pressure here for us to breathe. So what, the rockets can go into the vacuum, but the gas doesn't? No, mate, definitely not. They're all liars. That's right. Every agency saying they're going to outer space are all in the same exact quandary. Because they can't be visiting Narnia, the sky vacuum, because we'd have no gas to breathe.
Then there is the private sector. Obviously, there is SpaceX and other such companies, but...
I mean, the owner of SpaceX, why would he want a social media network where people literally disseminate their opinions? It had nothing to do with control, Dave. Nothing whatsoever, mate.
Why stop with rockets? All pilots, or navigators of any kind...
Who navigate on a flat plane. They've got sextants on board their planes, in aeroplanes. Aeroplane? Yeah, anyway, they've got sextants as backups so that they can use flat Earth elevation angle measurements to find their location should everything else fail. Did you know that, Dave? That the planes you've just referred to, not the space agencies, we've dealt with them. They're definitely not going to space because a vacuum isn't real. It's not our sky. But as for aeroplanes with their elevation angle measurement acquiring sextants on board, they're using flat Earth elevation angle measurements to find their way home if they get lost. So all of the agencies that pay these men to fly around give them a last hope if they get lost that requires a flat Earth. So if all else fails, and there's a good chance that all on board might die, their last resort is to measure Earth flat to make sure they don't die. That's what they do on aeroplanes, Dave. Maybe you were unaware of their sextant use.
Use a spherical Earth to get around.
No, they hold flat charts and flat maps in planes. Are you a fucking idiot? How many pilots do you think carry globes onto their planes? None. What they do take onto their planes are flat maps that can work in conjunction with flat angles off a flat plane. That's what they do. None of them use a globe model, and any claim to be globe projections have got lines on them, Dave, that have been taken by way of circles of equal elevation angles, measurements to Polaris. That's what they've been derived from. So you think planes somehow prove that there's an 8 inches per mile squared void opening up ahead of them when they are told by NASA specifically that they're traversing a flat and motionless plane? None of this adds up, Dave. It just points directly to you need to measure a flat plane if you're lost, otherwise you'll die.
Anyone who works in communications technology.
Like the stuff that we have on the ground that connects all our phones together, that fail if we lose a line of sight with it or if you're out in the country. That sort of communications. Why did you cut to a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum with a picture of a fake satellite in orbit? Because that isn't the case. Orbit presupposition was debunked with the R value, and sky is not a vacuum. Definitely not got things floating around in it like Superman.
Aerospace engineering, architecture,
architecture requiring a flat plane? Yeah, they use certain axioms, don't they? They use levels when they build things.
cartography, meteorology, or even politics. Just what percentage of people on Earth are in on the conspiracy?
Hardly any. Very few can be actually branded liars. Does it alter that there is one? Does it alter that you think you're on a sphere? And are referencing aeroplanes that prove a flat Earth if they get lost? With sextant angle measurements that can only be done if the Earth is flat?
When you consider all the aspects of our society that rely on a spherical Earth and
none of it relies on a spherical Earth. I've just pointed out how the plane example you gave has a sextant as a backup. To rely on a flat plane and elevation angle measurements that cannot come from a sphere. If they thought there was a sphere beneath them when they started doing those angle measurements, they'd fail immediately because they wouldn't be measuring angles. So you're wrong. As for how many people are under control by this deception, then that would correlate with the amount of people you think are in on it, you stupid buffoon.
A self-consistent set of physical laws.
Sorry.
Go on, Brian.
He also brought up cartography, when the most accurate maps in the world are Ordnance Survey maps, and they're directly flat Earth maps. They're all based on, they all use 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional Cartesian coordinates. And GPS uses 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional Cartesian coordinates also. And aerospace use their own special version of Cartesian coordinates, something that can't ever exist on a curved surface, as it requires all the squares or cubes to be equal in dimension. So he's talking completely. It's just the problem with Dave is he hasn't learned anything. That's the real problem here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's thick. Dunning-Kruger. I think Adam said it earlier.
It almost seems as though the number of people that would be in on the scam,
not in on it, under control by it,
outnumber the ones that constitute the mark.
So substitute shills and people for people under control and people controlling them.
And all of these corporations, which are beholden to shareholders.
Good.
I was going to say there's an argument from Silence in there where he's saying that no one has come forward to say the Earth's not a sphere, therefore it is. I don't see how that automatically equates to a conspiracy.
Right.
Are they really throwing money down the toilet, paying salaries to people who don't actually do anything?
This is a non sequitur fallacy. People in business might at some point utilize a globe in their advert for the sake of argument that could potentially link this together, but as far as Dave has actually linked it together, this is a complete non sequitur.
And building technology that serves no...
Go on.
Sorry. They are doing what he's saying. They are people paying people wages to do nothing. Dr. Becky, Professor Dave, what do they do? Nothing. They're getting paid a wage to do nothing. So yeah, that is happening. But it's just not that they're not aware that that's what they're doing. Well,
also, just about every day in the headlines, you hear stories where companies have lied to their shareholders. So what's he saying?
Naive.
No purpose. That's not how money works. And finally, let's get to the flat earth priests themselves.
Let's see who these are. These are like superheroes. Wow, you can hold us in high regard, eh?
Those maverick renegades, those Neos in the Matrix.
All right, okay. I don't know about this. There's no priesthood of flat earth. It's not a religion. So there's no priesthood. Heliocentrism, on the other hand, is a religion and does have a priesthood. Yeah, we're going to be covering Dr. Becky in a minute. We'll cover Neil deGrasse Tyson and have covered him plenty of times. Cox. There's plenty of them. They're the priests. They're ascribed titles within heliocentrism. But what, you think that there's some sort of, what, me as a YouTuber or Math Powerland as a YouTuber, do you think we're comparable to them? No, we're not. There's no title.
This conspiracy has been going on for millennia, but it ends now. This secret society of Freemasons has had every single world leader in their pocket since...
I mean, that may as well be true, but it doesn't have any correlation to the nature of Earth discussion, does it? We're not here trying to divine the motivation of the lie. Just point out the lie. What is that you say? There's outer space with rockets and people flying around. No, there isn't. That would be a violation of natural law. Gas would fill the space. That doesn't appeal to anybody's motivation. Go on, whoever that was.
I was going to say, do you think maybe he needs to know that heliocentrism is a flat Earth religion, and that might help him a little bit with his understanding?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's been burning a lot of globe projections that have actually come from a flat Earth. So maybe if you point out where his origins of his heliocentric religion come from, maybe that'll make him feel better.
Well, I think he's under the impression that corruption doesn't exist, because the world is full of corruption and full of people in power who are blackmailed into doing what they are doing because they have things hanging over them by other people in power, and yada yada yada. It's going on for centuries. It's gone on since the dawn of time, I suppose. It's like, but does he not realize that corruption exists? It doesn't mean that they're all hiding that the earth is flat, but that doesn't mean they're not a lot of corrupt. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of corrupt politicians and businessmen out there, and bankers. There is. I mean,
it's the dawn of civilization.
This whole.
Go on, Tenth.
Nathan, this whole comparison that he's trying. Yeah, this whole comparison that he's trying to do is ridiculous. Remember my story where I was in my class and I kept raising my hands, and my teachers finally said, "Look, I don't even believe in it, but I have to teach it." Now, there was almost 30 students in that class. I was the only one raising my hand until he said that. And they said, "Oh, okay, so you don't even believe what you're teaching, but you got to teach it." All right, well, that continues to all education levels until you have a Professor Dave that never raised his hand and challenged anybody. And then he says, how could all these people be on it? Well, they've been indoctrinated. They don't even know they're on it.
But they are no match for a few high school dropouts with YouTube channels. Whatever are they going to do?
The stereotyping fallacy. So, I'm not a high school dropout. Why would you assume that the people that have pointed out where you are wrong suddenly need to be attacked based on their education status? Again, I pointed out earlier that in order to call yourself a scientist, you merely need to adhere to the scientific method. The definition of pseudoscience is a claim of science where the application of the scientific method has not been used. Ergo, all you need to be to call yourself science is someone who adheres to that method. That's it. Doesn't need any education, but you're saying my standard of education was people who went to university when I talked about science. Remember? Science was people at university. Now we've got these dropouts. These things are comparable. It doesn't matter if someone's a high school dropout. If they've adhered to the scientific method, they're more science than anybody who's been through the highest of high standards in education and hasn't performed that method.
What could they possibly do except...
We have a hang on.
Brian's like, I am.
Hang on. We got Adam Meek. We got Adam Meek in here. We got refracted curvature here. To the best of my knowledge, they're not high school dropouts.
Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. None of us need to disseminate what our standards of education are, because why buy into that in the way that Dave is buying into that? He's using that as a hammer to smash home the idea that high education means right when they talk about the globe. Well, I'm not going to say this man on my panel is of this standard of education, therefore Earth is flat. That's the crap standard. Now, don't get me wrong, there's times when it's justified. Now, some of the people who have the highest of standards of education in this group never disseminate what their education standard is, because it's not useful to their argument. The argument stands alone. And Dave wants to appeal to his audience that it's not about the argument, it's about how well educated the person telling you what's what is, and how stupid the person that's contradicting it is. Now, it may be the case that the person that's coming up with some crap argument for flat Earth is a high school dropout and shouldn't be in this arena, but we smack their ass as much as we smack Dave's. You know, if you're a pretend clown flat earther, you'll just get the same sharp tongue that Dave's getting now. It's just talk shit, expect pain. That's it. It's that simple. But it doesn't matter how well educated people are in this regard.
You summed it up nicely, Nathan. We follow the method. the empirical one that's laid out for us, we can call ourselves scientists. Kind of irrelevant what we've done prior to that, and there's no validity to the statement that I'm going to make based on an experiment that I'm doing right now, following the correct method. And as long as I do that, doesn't matter if all I've got is a swimming certificate back in me. I'm still a scientist at that point. I follow the method.
Except
I am a high school dropout.
Doesn't matter.
That would be true of me. It doesn't matter. But this is my point. It doesn't matter just because I'm a high school dropout. I can still correct this Professor Dave all day long. So what has that got to do with anything? Yeah, I don't have credentials, so I won't be able to apply for certain jobs. But that doesn't mean that I am without knowledge.
The funny thing, Bri, is we just criticise this guy for being a fraud, a fake. And he's kind of, they project like demons, don't they? So his projection now is that if you're not holding these qualifications that he doesn't hold, he's only pretending, then you've got no right to speak. I mean, their self-contradiction is outstanding.
Immediately murder every single person who ever posts a flat earth video in 10 seconds with a laser beam. Honestly, given the magnitude of the conspiracy as it is peddled and the titanic power ascribed to its progenitors,
Wow, this is a long old waffle.
The fact that flat earth channels even exist at all is proof that the earth isn't flat.
Let me get it straight. His claim in this instance is that because there are flat earth channels, that proves earth isn't flat.
Pretty poor logic.
That's just a flat, straight out non sequitur fallacy.
I think we should call him illogical Dave, because that's really all he's proven in the last couple of videos, that he has no logical critical thought.
He doesn't have a science acumen. He doesn't have an acumen in logic. He's Dunning-Kruger. He's telling people what happens in his establishments he's not a part of and hasn't been through. He's claiming that all of his opponents are like the South Park gamer guy with zits and sitting on a bucket. It's just like, what? This is really pathetic.
Why would these people spend...
Back to the second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum with the high pressure gas not filling the availability of volume in violation of all gas law.
And thousands of years and quadrillions of dollars to construct the ultimate deception and then risk losing it all by letting some bozos talk into their webcams.
Doesn't make any difference what I say about the nature of reality. You either accept what the world is or you don't. It doesn't matter that the perpetuation of the lie does keep people under control, and whether or not I point it out and you accept it or not. You have to actually realise what the world is. Then at that point, what difference does it make? Well, you might start questioning some of the other things that you've currently got under your belt. The vague idea that there might be something there to apologise for, like banking and money. What money do they benefit? What, the money that they print and control? That money. I don't know why I said control. They don't control anything. It's not about control. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of projection where he is convinced that people can't just make a decision for themselves as to what the world is based on their experience. That's what it is. It's like you're not allowed to do that, according to him. You're not allowed to just state what you see, as you see it. That's not allowed, because he can't do that. That's the problem. So he doesn't want you. It's like it's a subconscious thing. He doesn't want you stating what you see, because he's not capable of doing it. Same way as he didn't have those sex orgies at university.
I love it how we're delving into his psychology and making those assumptions. But it does seem that way, I've got to be honest, Dave,
Believe that they mastermind elaborate narratives like a fake moon landing.
Like a fake sex party at an education system you didn't go through.
building hundreds of enormous rockets and making them
Cut to the phallic penis rockets. That was a shocking turn of events.
somehow disappear, fabricating tens of...
Here we go. So this is clouds, right? These are clouds, yeah? That's interesting. Aren't they high pressure gas? Like water vapor up there, right? This is supposed to be a vacuum, right, Dave? 10 to the minus 17 torr? Yeah, if that was true, all of this gas, once it reached this edge, see this little bit here? This sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, debunked by the Black Swan. Once it reached this edge, yeah, it would want to carry on going. That's what gas does. Unless it hits something like a container, like a wall, to stop it going in high velocity. So it comes out of the ground, it goes woo up to here, and then just stops. No, definitely not. That's not how gas behaves. It'd just carry on into space. We would have never developed gas pressure in the first place if the sky was a vacuum. Because every single particle of gas would come out of the ground and immediately dissipate into the sky vacuum, never to return, never to develop gas pressure. So this is a complete lie, Dave. This is total nonsense. It's just what you've been kept under control with, the deception that you can't see.
Of thousands of new images per day. And
images? No, there's no images from Narnia. The sky vacuum isn't capable of producing images. It's not a real place. You're lied to. With hundreds of images a day claimed to be from a sky vacuum in violation of natural law, many of them with gas at high pressure not dispersing into sky vacuums.
And yet they can't pay a hitman.
No, he's actually correct, Nathan. Sorry, he's actually correct. There is hundreds of images a day, but there's no photographs. And that's the difference.
A couple grand to go take out some slack-jawed basement dwellers?
So what he's saying is that it's the second time he's mentioned it. So the first time was with the guy from South Park with lasers trained on him for setting up a YouTube channel for disseminating anything other than his religious faith. So he's prepared to defend his religious faith with his furious anger that he's now verbalizing here. And he's saying that, you know, given that Earth is actually a sphere, if it was a massive deception that it was flat, why wouldn't there be assassins sent round to assassinate us? What this tells me is Dave's in, like conspiracy cats, a tremendous amount of mental turmoil and pain over the subconscious recognition of some of these problems that the heliocentric worldview offers to him as a paradigm. So at the first outset, the first video, I think it was John that pointed out that he's already accepted a flat Earth, but he's now trying to find reasons why it can't be. So somewhere mentally, without him wanting to, he's processed some of this information and doesn't like it. And he's just reminded of that by us. So therefore, he's going to verbalise how, why aren't the assassins out shooting them? Why aren't the lasers trained on them just for making YouTube channels? What was that, Dave? Nothing to do with control. But yet you're expressing your furious anger to another group of human beings to the point where you want to ask why they're not being assassinated. I mean, it's not control. You're a textbook example of that control, Dave. Yeah? It just shocks me that people have no introspection at all, right? I love it, in fact. This is ace. Why am I saying I hate that? The fact that Dave has absolutely no critical thinking skills or introspection is just par for the course and is the very reason why people are so easily manipulated.
This really is the bottom line. If you're uneducated, you can ignore all the science.
What's on this blackboard? Let's have a quick look. I'm just going to step away because it's far away from my screen. I'm going to have a look and see if there is, just before I make this declarative statement. One sec. A couple of things. This is maths. This is not science. There is no observed phenomena detailed on this blackboard. There are a few triangles, though, Dave. I noticed that. Those triangles. Where's the science? This isn't science. You don't know what science is. I'll just detail it again with this maths on the screen for the audience's benefit with Dave's words subtitled. If you're uneducated, you can ignore all the science. Puts up a load of maths on screen. Science is the establishment of a cause and effect relationship based on a scientific prediction, also known as a hypothesis, actualized in experimentation, to validate or invalidate a presumed cause of a natural phenomena. That's science. Nothing on this blackboard is that. At all. So Dave doesn't know what science is. Simple.
If you're lazy, you can ignore all the observations of this.
What, of all the stars going in the same direction? Because according to Dave in video 2, they go in the opposite direction. They go anti-clockwise in the southern begging the question hemisphere. Why are you showing us pictures that debunk your own claim? Are these the ones going in the opposite direction, Dave, you stupid clown? When they all go in the same direction with the exception of Polaris? You stupid muppet.
The sky.
Ignore all the observations. Dave didn't even make the observation, otherwise he'd know which way they went when you went south. Now, immediately when he said it, both me and, was it Neil? Said, we've been to the south, we've seen it. Was it Neil? I don't think it was Neil. Was it you, Brian?
It was me.
Yeah, we both said we've been there, we've seen it, and we've observed it. Now me, I had an iPad with a compass on it. So I was quite intrigued in terms of which direction I was turning to see the stars I was observing when I was in the south. Now, not a lot of people would be that keen. Me, I'm very interested in what the sky is. I always have been. So I knew which direction I was facing when I observed them. They went in the same direction as they do here. Shocking, isn't it? Dave thinks they go in the opposite direction. He's actually declared that. Because he's thick. And then he goes on to tell you about you're not making the observations. No, you haven't made these observations. That's why you made incorrect statements about what those observations would be if you'd made them, and you haven't.
If you're stubborn, you can ignore all the photos.
Go on.
He's also talking. Sorry, I'll be quick. He's also talking about how we're all supposedly ignoring the observations. That's the ultimate projection. It's him who has ignored all his own observations and everyone else's observations. He's the one, and anyone like him are the ones who are ignoring the observations of reality that don't show what they needed to show to support what they needed to support. We're not ignoring it. That's the whole point of this. We stopped ignoring it. We started paying attention to it. And we went, no, it's not a globe.
Wouldn't it be far better if government assassins just came and shut us down, Dave, as we take apart your every word systematically for a live audience of over 100 people? Wouldn't it be far better if the government just shut us down and shot us with lasers? No, it would be a lot more painful to just accept the obvious and observable facts that you've been deceived, lied to, and kept under control by people smarter than you.
Well, if they did come and kill us, they'd have to kill everybody that uses a sextant or navigates on a flat plane. There'd be a lot of people to take out.
That's why we're here. I could never figure it out until about 2 or 3 months ago. It might have even been you, John, that got me to get the penny to drop in that regard. Why aren't we actually censored? There's certain subjects on YouTube where you can just be removed if you talk about them. Why? Well, because there's a certain narrative that goes along with them that's being cast in terms of a spell over the public, and they don't want that interfered with. So if you interfere with it, they'll shut you down immediately. Why is Flat Earth different? Why is it that we require replacement with an alternative like anti-Flat Earthers, so that we can be suppressed but not censored? Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Flat Earth is required to make the claim of the globe. If you censor us, you censor out the origin of your globe Earth assertion. You can't do that. You can't censor something that's absolutely required to make the models that you say you're standing on. That'd be a globe. This photo is a lie. Why is it a lie? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The surface of the Earth is depicted as being spherical from the surface of another spherical item we see from the ground called the Moon, claimed to be a man standing on it taking a picture of it. Or is it from an orbital motion? I forget. It doesn't matter. The point is that when this photo was taken, the guys who took it claimed to be in spacesuits and a spaceship, needed to protect themselves and keep the gas that they breathe in whatever container they were taking the image from, be it a spaceship or spacesuit. So they need to stop the gas in their suit expanding out into space. You know, like in Aliens when Ripley opens the airlock and all of the gas vacates into space? That's what gas does. Now let's look at the picture of Earth. Oh, what's around this? keeping the high-pressure gas from expanding into the vacuum? Nothing. Oh, what's that? You think there's a gravitational force? No. Number one, gravity's not a force. Number two, it's a bending geodesic space-time geometry that isn't where we live. And number three, that non-force force that you can think of as a force but isn't actually a force doesn't make gas do anything other than it does. In your world, gas doesn't go down. We're not having gas poured in from above. It's created at ground level and makes its way up, dissipating and getting thinner as it does. Some of it's in cycles. Now, we can observe all of these things only because gas pressure is here, meaning that it's pressing on something. Now, the gas in this picture is not only sat in violation of natural law not expanding into the vacuum, it's got nothing to press on. So how is it at pressure? It isn't, it's just a farce. The gas in the spacesuits needs to fill the vacuum, but the gas on Earth doesn't. Absolutely absurd.
Photographs of the Earth from space, which
no, space is fake.
Objectively are not
because of its violation of natural law, not because I'm just making a non sequitur hand wave.
Not CGI.
This was CGI or it's painted, because it definitely wasn't a real image, because images from space vacuums aren't capable of being taken.
Even if you ignore all of that.
Ignore what? The violations of natural law. We didn't ignore it. We addressed it head on and debunked the claims in the first instance that you begged the question of, Dave. We didn't ignore it.
The story just doesn't work.
What story? You measure elevation angle measurements from a flat Earth because that's how it's done. That's a fact. That's how people navigate. Planes and boats, it doesn't make a big difference which. You use planes as an example. They need a flat Earth if they get lost. That's how navigation's performed with the stars. That's how the maps are developed, with elevation angle measurements to Polaris. So the story doesn't work. There's my story. Let's see if the strawman fallacy, stereotyping fallacy, that Dave will now use matches up with my claim that proves a flat Earth. Let's see.
America and the USSR were not cooperating during the Cold War.
I didn't claim that. I said elevation angle measurements from a curved baseline aren't possible. You can't navigate a sphere.
Conspiracies do not get passed down over 100 generations.
Conspiracies have nothing to do with the fact that we measure a flat plane and navigate a flat plane, and the maps and models you think are globe projections when you use flat maps have also been developed by elevation angle measurements to stars, more specifically Polaris, to give you the lines of latitude. So, no. It doesn't matter how long you think the conspiracy's been passed down by. We are, in fact, navigating a flat plane. That's just a fact.
There is no Darth Sidious controlling the empire from...
What, controlling the money, printing the money, controlling your taxes, controlling your way of life, making the laws? No, that's right, Dave, you're right.
A secret base. It makes no sense.
Barocca Immuno for immune support.
And we all know that it's a ruse. Among all the internet hoaxes, Flat Earth is unique in its...
Not a hoax. Utilised daily for celestial navigation. How is this a hoax? When it's used by you to make your model to claim you're standing on a sphere. That's why we're here. That's why we're tolerated. That's why we can't be censored out of existence, because it would mean censoring a fundamental premise for your globe assertion out of existence.
Stupidity. It is just
not stupid. It's a fact. You need a flat Earth to get elevation angle measurements to develop the models, to create your globe projections, to make flat maps from them.
A meme that spiraled out of control.
Not a meme, a way of life. It's how we measure the Earth. It's how we build on the Earth, and it's how we navigate the Earth.
It's a satire of conspiracies.
No, it's not. It's just the way we measure the Earth.
That became a parody of itself when people...
No, that's what I see the globe lie as. A parody of itself, given that you can't measure, build on, or navigate a curved surface because you can't get level from it, and you can't get angles from it, and you don't use it. Nobody on a plane's got a globe.
People unexpectedly actually started falling for it.
Falling for what? The idea that you could take a globe on a plane and navigate with it? When you actually need angle measurements from a flat baseline, that's a flat Earth, and they use flat maps to do it with? But you are under the misapprehension that it's all globe-shaped. Au contraire.
That's when the latest wave of flathead con men came into fashion.
So how am I conning you? How is this a con? Yeah, this is why I got so furious with Jaron. I expect this from guys like this who are in pain, deceived, not realising it. Fine, yeah, you call me by stereotyping fallacy a con man, not naming me by name, I notice. but there is no con when I talk about celestial navigation and the equatorial plane that's navigated. That's a fact.
These are the bottom feeders that scrape together a meager...
If you navigate on a plane or on a boat utilizing celestial navigation, Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel has just declared that you are a bottom feeder. Just let's get that clear. Anybody trained in celestial navigation is a bottom feeder because they require a flat plane to stop people on their boats and planes dying if they get lost. Bottom feeders, according to Dave.
Eager living from live streams aimed at the same couple hundred poor saps desperately...
No, the guys on boats and planes with sextants when navigating if lost to find their position based on the maps derived from elevation angle measurements only capable of taking them from a flat plane. They're not spouting anything on YouTube. They're just making sure people don't die at sea.
Searching for purpose where they otherwise have none. They are
searching for land where they otherwise might not find it if they didn't have a flat earth and angles to measure from it.
Are big fish in the smallest and most pathetic pond in that.
Yeah, no, tiny little fish in a massive ocean lost and only capable of finding their way home by drawing out circles of equal elevation. That's giant areas below the GP of a star in a massive circle that's all at the same elevation. Same flat world in all directions, capable of being plotted nicely on a flat map. When you draw out a circle, that's two-dimensional, of equal elevation, that's same height, not curving. And you get that from an angle running along the baseline. That's the ground you're navigating. So flat baseline, flat map, circle of equal elevation. This is all flat Earth, Dave. And that's for a teeny tiny little boat in a massive ocean. And using those stars and flat Earth angles, they can make sure the people on board don't die if lost.
Imaginable. This is why Flat Earth is the most stunning example of the psychology of conspiracy in
nothing to do with psychology and everything to do with measuring the plane of the surface that we navigate.
Existence. It exemplifies the abandonment of logic that's...
No, abandonment of logic. You've never exercised any. All you've done is employed logical fallacy for a sum total of 4 videos. We haven't seen 3 yet. We're on to 4 for some reason. But either way, I assure you there will be plenty of logical fallacies in the 3rd video as well. He's talking about flights. So, no, Dave. While you project out this is you. Someone who's exercised no critical thought whatsoever. If you had exercised critical thought, you'd start asking yourself where the latitude lines you described when detailing flat Earth straw man models that have come from globe projections, that have come from flat Earth elevation angle measurements, actually work. Because this is you. This is projection of your Dunning-Kruger lack of ability when it comes to research.
Some people are willing to enact in order to reject the reality of their own inadequacies and cling to a fantasy in which they are super special.
Nothing to do with being special. How did I describe in any of this debunking that I was somehow special when I detailed how people out at sea use celestial navigation? That's not me telling my audience that I'm special. That's me telling you how navigation's performed and how it requires a flat plane. I'm not telling people that I'm special. I will tell them to smash the super chat because I'm poor.
Part of the chosen handful of John Connors who know the truth.
Maybe. If John Connor was considered to be a nobody as opposed to a main character in a movie that we're not part of. I mean, yeah, I see your logic there.
The simplest of minds are unable to accept the reality that does not recognize their brilliance, so any narrative that upholds their supreme status will be blindly accepted.
Blindly? No. It's utilized the world over when anybody holds a sextant.
Even if it requires that basic logic and the...
Basic logic like the logic you didn't employ in any of these videos, Dave. You employed a whole load of logical fallacies. But you started out your video by saying that we couldn't critique you just by basically saying fallacy, which we've not done. We've pointed out the actual fallacies that you've used and how you've used them. That's why this has taken quite some time. Every video that's about 5 to 10 minutes long takes about an hour to an hour and a half to pull apart because you use so many fallacies.
Laws of physics be rewritten.
Laws of physics? No, I think you're convoluting 2 different terms there, Dave. Laws of nature are descriptions of things that occur always. Physics would be the study of the physical. So the cause and effect relationships we observe with phenomena. Laws of physics is a greasing the skids way of saying my science just describes things, doesn't explain them. Just pseudoscience stories attached to phenomena. You're convoluting two different terms, laws of nature and physics, not laws of physics, because that's a mishandling of the laws of nature, which are merely descriptions of things that occur always. Again, admirably demonstrating that Dave doesn't know what he's talking about in this context.
As long as it is anti-establishment, as long as it rages against the non-existent machine.
On the contrary, we're telling you how you navigate an Earth that's keeping us here. If it wasn't for the fact that celestial navigation and the globe model required flat Earth elevation angle measurements, we wouldn't be here. There's a good chance we would have the laser beams and the government shills coming to take us away, if it in any way interfered with the reality of the world that we actually live in and potentially pushed the world into chaos. But using a flat plane is a way of life for anybody navigating. So there's no way we're going to disseminate the world into chaos. But if people figure out they've been lied to on a massive scale, that might happen.
As long as it requires no actual knowledge or thinking.
No knowledge of celestial navigation and its requirements for flat Earth elevation angle measurements. That's some knowledge that I have.
Being ordained into this alternate reality is...
alternate reality? No, then the reality of navigation isn't an alternate reality, it's how it's done.
The defense mechanism of choice for...
Your defense mechanism against truth.
For the delusional narcissist.
For the lack of experience and ignorance of somebody who doesn't do any research and gets somebody else to do it for them, only to parrot it off for an audience, seeming totally ignorant when taken apart by a flat earther. This is you, Dave.
With no skill set to match.
No skill set. You didn't do the research yourself. This was done by other people. Do you even do your own editing? What is it that you do? Just read off a script?
And it is this most obvious of realizations that leads me to part ways with the flat Earth phenomenon.
Phenomenon? Flat Earth is a concrete noun. Phenomena is something happening. Oh, it's good that you round out on a Dunning-Kruger misunderstanding of what a phenomena is. The flat Earth phenomena. No, mate. Flat Earth, concrete noun. Globe Earth, concrete noun. Phenomena, something occurring, something happening. Flat Earth isn't something happening. You stupid Dunning-Kruger clown show.
It was fun for a moment, but...
Yeah, it was. It really was. I really enjoyed this. We're going to be doing it again with part 3.
As far as I can tell, it's over.
What, the globe Earth claim? No, you'll still be very much kept under control by this non-control system that you can't see because you're blind to it. You're still there, mate. Which means I'll still have an evergreen subject for as long as YouTube's around, which is wonderful. Yeah, we've run well over live. We're not going to get to cover Becky on this live show, I'm afraid, guys.
What I think is very good is that he wants rid of you, but you are existing longer on YouTube because of him, in a way. If you know what I mean. It's like he wants you to go away, to be hit by a laser, have a laser beam on you and be taken out. But the reason that the subject continues is because he continues to fight against it.
Any other last words, comment before we go off and ask people to stay tuned?
Yeah, it's like One Deck said. He said a lot of things, but really didn't say anything. I mean, he's going to consensus science. He's offering a color commentary. He never put out an argument. He never proved anything. And he just was making fun of anyone who had a different view than his. So it's almost like anyone who doesn't want to debate the subject with the details of the black swan or elevation angles would love this video from Dave, because all it is a bunch of ad homs thrown in there. And he never proved the globe, ever, not once.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live and we're hoping us to take apart Becky, then this is where we bid you farewell. We will cover Dr. Becky on tomorrow's stream, hopefully. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
lucky day.
Is airplanes. For not that it's better than the elevation angle and celestial navigation, it's that it's more constant and has more dimensions to it. There's more than just what they do as far as flying in the horizontal.
Most people.
What?
I've used it back in the day. I remember talking to a gal who was going to fly back to Hawaii. And I said, when you get on that plane and fly back to Hawaii, other than the ascent and descent, you're going to be a level flight. How can you do that with a curved surface?
Yeah, well, the thing about it is that with airplanes and air travel, it's thousands of horizontal measurements being made daily. Thousands. The lift effect requires the chord line of the wings, which culminates in also the nose of the airplane, to be above horizontal, to fly horizontally. As you have even stated in the past, or joked about in the past, and we all have spoke about, put your hand out the car window, tip the leading edge slightly up, and your hand lifts straight up in the air. If the car is the thrust and the tip up of the hand is the wings, then you have going forward and being up in the air. You know, it's that simple. The lift effect cannot work if you have to fly below horizontal, which you would have to do on a globe Earth. It works the opposite.
I was introduced to a pilot. I was introduced to a pilot through a friend, and I went and asked him that direct question. I said, when you get to level flight, does the nose of the airplane have to be up? He says, oh, definitely, 1 to 2 degrees. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, the average commercial airliner is flying with a 3 to 5 degree above horizontal pitch. You know, every time they move the carts up and down through the aisles, they have to put the lock on. And what you'll notice is if they don't have the lock, if the cart wants to roll back because the plane is pitched up. I mean, that's only one of, like, I mean, that is, the lift effect is for me, it's the all-around greatest proof. But there's more than that. There's the cabin pressure within the airplane that destroys all these claims to do with the ISS and all that kind of thing. And then you have Adam's proof with the accelerometer, which is excellent, absolutely epic. And then you have...
I agree with Brian.
Go on, Neil.
No, I'm just agreeing with you, Brian, because everybody could get in a plane and observe it for themselves also.
Well, that's the thing about it. I mean, how many people I can even just easily research the basics of flight? You know, because how many, even people in Africa in villages have internet and smartphones now. Even they can do it in African villages. You know what I mean? Even they can look up what this is about. You know, I'm not saying that there are opposition or something. I'm just saying people everywhere in the world can research about this and understand it easy. Whereas celestial navigation, not so easy to understand because you're going to be met with such nonsense. Whereas when it comes to flight, it's very basic. If you look into the first basics of how flight happens, you know, that you're instantly starting to understand it. So that's why I think it's the best of all the proofs, simply because it's so easy to translate from one person to the other, as opposed to celestial navigation, which is more complicated, let's just say.
I was talking to a gal about that, airplanes and so forth, and the curvature of the Earth. And she says, yeah, when I was on an airplane, I saw the curvature of the Earth. And I said, you saw the curvature of the Earth from an airplane? I go, what altitude were you at? Because I've been at 40,000 plus feet before, and I've never seen it. And I've flown a bunch of times and I've never seen it. She goes, no, I saw it. And I said, so when Neil deGrasse Tyson says you can't see any of the curvature, even if you're 160,000 feet, but you saw it at 40,000 feet? Is that what you're telling me? And she just didn't know what to say after that. So it's amazing how once you put it into the mind of people that the Earth is curved, they'll see things that they've never seen and say they've seen it.
Yeah, when people say that, I've had people try to say that to me. They've seen the curve of the Earth from different places, and obviously an airplane or whatever. Like, that's when I go into talking to them about how the airplane flies and what it does. Do you know what I mean? So how could you be seeing the curve of the Earth when the airplane is designed to fly over something that isn't curved?
Mic check.
But most of the time, I just ignore them when they start that stuff. I go, okay, grand, goodbye. You know what I mean? If you're going to be straight out lying to me, because I know what you did and didn't see, then what's the point in us having a conversation? Sorry, go on.
And to add what Tenth said,
We can hear you, Righteous.
and to add on what you said, Tenth, right, and how it was seated in their mind, and that's why they saw it. I can even attest to that because in high school it was seated on my mind. You can see it from a tree, and I even said to somebody, "I can see it from a tree." So that's pretty bizarre how that works. So that was just to comment to what you said, Tenth.
Yeah. No, I just think because the teacher tells us something, and like that one, for example, you can see it from a tree. And so you say, well, you can see it from a tree because you're citing a teacher. Now, you've never seen it from a tree, but you believe it because that was seated in your mind, like you said. I think this was this gal's situation. I said, look, the windows are kind of curved on those planes. Are you sure you weren't looking through the edge? Because no one ever claims to see Earth curve from an airplane. No one. No one could see it. And you're saying you saw it. So, and then she just changed the subject because there was nothing there.
All right. Well, that's all I got to say. I hope you guys aren't waiting on me.
No. I mean, if you see Earth curve from an airplane, and I've been on plenty of airplanes, I would validate it, prove it, and be a baller. There's no doubt. I've just never seen it. But you ain't got an R Valley anyway, so how are you going to see it?
But it's that people are under the impression that it is a globe, so they're willing to say stupid stuff. Even like Righteous said that he told someone you could see Earth curve from a tree, because even though, and I would say, I'm going to speak for Righteous now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you surely knew, Righteous, that that wasn't true. But you are saying it because you felt that the Earth is a globe, so it has to be there. If you know what I mean. It's like some people...
I'll add to it, okay? The way he seated it in my mind, it's almost like he took my memory, because I climbed a lot of trees when I was a kid. I climbed to like the very last branch, right? And when he said that, he basically superimposed what I saw with what I didn't saw. And in reality, I actually believe that I did see that when I didn't see it. So I actually did believe that. I actually thought I did see it. So this is how you can say the genius of this seeding thing is. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely it does. Because if you're talking to one of the ballers, what's the first thing they want to show you? They want to show you a diagram. They don't want to show you reality. They want to show you a diagram. Because the diagram backs up what they have seeded in their mind is what is out in reality. So they want to show you a diagram of something.
Sounds like Rumpus, the master of diagrams. Remember the Rumpus? He had a diagram for everything.
But that he is the ultimate seated in his mind person. That's why he's so aggressive and vicious and nasty. Go on.
I got another thing to add, but you finish first.
No, you go ahead. I can.
Right.
Say
Here's another example of the seeding thing, right? I remember when I got in the community, they said we never seen any footage of the ISS being put together. But I thought I did see something like that on TV before, right? I'm like, I recall seeing a video about it, of the ISS being put together in a clip of somewhere. But then later on, I realized, you know what? That might have been a seed of computer-generated graphics showing it being put together. And I took it as reality. And guess what they're doing all the time? They're putting things together in CGI and cartoons and as seeding it into people.
Yeah, well, it's so bad that they have been proposing now since a year or so ago that they're going to be making airplanes that don't have windows. That they're you're off mute, Eli. That they're going to be making airplanes that don't have windows, and they're going to be replacing the windows with computer screens that will show people whatever they want people to see. That is
Eli,
literally.
you got background noise, Eli.
Yeah, that is literally a plan or something they're trying to propose.
You know what? For the thing that's been happening for the past 2 years, you know that they're saying that they never said that doing what they recommended everyone do would actually help you at all. That's what they're saying. They never said that. And we've talked about how if this whole thing blew up, they would say, no, we never told you guys it was actually a globe. You know, what we gave you was a model of something. You know, like I can see that happening. We never claimed that it was this, that, and third. Just leaving just that little bit of.
Right, Eli, it's so awful listening to you. I'm really sorry. I don't like moaning about it, but you're just fading in and out, and it's just god awful.
I'm speaking directly through the phone. I thought it was different. Alrighty.
It's just not working.
Well, since this mic went out, I just want to like reiterate what like I was finishing saying. It's like this whole seeding thing, right? Like I never seen the whole thing being put together, but because I've seen a lot of these cartoons, or I've seen a cartoon of it being put together, I mistook looking back as a cartoon to actually be reality. I substituted the cartoon for reality. Are you guys getting this? And this is what's going on all the time. They're constantly seeding cartoons, and people are probably remembering it as real.
Yeah, but say look at someone like Rumpus. He's self-seeding. When you're showing yourself a diagram and wanting to show other people the diagram, for every time they're asking you about reality, you're showing them maths or a diagram. It means that you're self-seeding, and that's what someone like Rumpus is doing. He's self-seeding. It was seeded to him, just like you're talking about, Righteous, and now he's going to seed it to himself as well as try and seed it to other people.
Nathan, I put something up in the war room on the education system and what's happening in it. Kind of what Professor Dave was stereotyping or talking about. How can all these people be wrong and you guys be right, kind of a thing? You see it?
Yeah.
Can I read that and then have you and the panel comment on it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Unfortunately, academic freedom and freedom of speech are rapidly declining in academic institutions, including universities, professional societies, journals, and funding agencies. Researchers whose findings challenge dominant narratives find it increasingly hard to get published, funded, hired, or promoted. They and teachers who question current orthodoxies are harassed in person and online, ostracized, subjected to opaque university disciplinary procedures, fired, or canceled by other means. Employment, promotion, and funding are increasingly subject to implicit or explicit political litmus tests, including approval from bureaucrats seeking to impose views of social justice or DEI principles. Activism is replacing inquiry and debate. An increasing number of simple facts and ideas cannot even be mentioned without risk of retribution. I'll pause there.
There's a lady called Deborah S-O-H. She's Asian American, and she is or was like a biologist, something like that. And she left academia in recent years, very recent years, the past 2 years, because she said that it was just impossible to ever do anything that was outside of what they wanted you to do. If you say anything against what they want you to say, or if you try and research anything that outside of what they want you to research, they'll make it so impossible that for you to do it, it'll never happen. And if you go against them, then you will have your peers attack you, basically, she said. So she said she actually left academia. She does stuff on YouTube now, but she left academia and working within universities and things, simply because she said that it was just not possible to make any progress in any direction that was outside of what they wanted you to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, continue reading. Public high-profile victims are the tip of the iceberg. An atmosphere of fear and self-censorship pervades academia. Many faculty and students believe they cannot voice their views, question dogmas, investigate certain topics, or question the loss of academic freedom without risking ostracization and damage to their careers. Knowledge is lost. Many talented scholars are leaving academia. I'll pause there.
Yeah, which is what I was saying, that lady left academia simply because it was just, she said, it's just like getting out of hand. They keep promoting stuff that is nonsense or has an agenda behind it, and they're not looking to really research things that should be researched, and they're not looking to find out what they should be finding out. They're looking for people like her to just purely do what they want them to do and come back with the answers they want them to come back with. You will not get funding for something if it's not what they want you to look into. And if you're coming back with answers, you won't get any more funding if your answers are not in line with what they want them to be. So it is, if someone like Professor Dave actually thinks that there isn't a control structure, and I'm not talking about they're all hiding flat out, I'm talking about just a control structure and an agenda. There absolutely is, to the point where you have real world academics walking away from it due to this control structure.
Yeah, let me continue. Universities and professional societies are failing to resist such liberal forces, which have arisen many times throughout history from all sides of the political spectrum, and to defend academic freedom and freedom of speech. Many universities and professional organizations now qualify their support for freedom, free speech. They say so long as the speech does not offend or exclude free speech, so long as it does not challenge institutionally approved narratives and conceptions of social justice, free speech, but only within narrow credentialed boundaries. These restrictions are counterproductive, even to their goal of advancing particular ideology. People infer from censorship a desire to protect lies from being exposed. Historically, censorship has supported monstrous regimes and their ideologies. Bad ideas are only defeated by argument and persuasion, not by suppression. True justice and freedom cannot exist without each other. And
I'd just like to jump in and say that to that point, I just watched the Graham Hancock's latest television series released on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse. And in that series, he basically challenges the whole archaeological community because of their stubbornness and unwillingness to deal with a lot of the things that he's investigated. And his latest series really pointed that out very clearly.
yeah, but Professor Dave says there's no control structure whatsoever.
Which is why he has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Isn't it funny? There you go. There's no control structure, yet you have well over 1 million views, and someone else who can critique you on many points that you make and correct you on many points you make could be lucky to have a couple of thousand subscribers. There's no control structure, Dave.
Hey, Brian, the funny thing, when I was looking at the chat, when Nathan in chat and Dr. Becky's chat, the people in chat, it's like they were not even hearing what Nathan was saying. It was just so wrapped up in this heliocentric black holes and all this other theoretical science nonsense. And it's sad.
But see, they're living in science fiction, though, isn't it? Let's be honest. They're living within science fiction that they wanted, so much so they wanted to be real. There's a direct link between people who are like that and also are serious Star Trek fans or fans of sci-fi to the point where they end up going to Comic-Con. You know what I mean? Grown adults. It's like, not there's nothing wrong with that if you enjoy that. That's fine. I'm not putting it down, but I'm saying there's so much of a link between people who follow people like Dr. Becky, who will also have a ridiculous obsession with sci-fi and are likely to turn up at Comic-Con dressed as whoever. You know what I mean? It's like you can't tell me that you are a serious person, and this is what you promote as serious. If it really is only a backing, a psychological backing for what you want to be true. There's nothing wrong with fantasy. We all love fantasy. But don't be telling me that your fantasy is reality simply because you can't handle the fact that your fantasy isn't.
None of people in chat were serious minded, because if they were, that Nathan was throwing out there, I mean, anybody would be like, "Oh, whoa, wait a second, I haven't heard this before." You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, there was nobody in there that were going to be able to accept or understand or even address that, and probably in 8%. I would say I didn't see it, but I could say I will look through the comment or through the live stream, and it's like, just go away. That's all they want you to do. They just want you to go away. Look at Conspiracy Cats, Professor Dave. Like, they just want us to go away. Recently, Conspiracy Cats has done a couple of debates. One was with Flatside, and he's done another recently with, I think, Witsit or something. And supposedly he's really, really nasty. But why? Why is he being this way? Because he just wants you to go away. Because as Nathan said on that Haunted House interview, he can't handle the fact that he could be wrong, that it all might not be what he was told. He's terrified of it.
Well, anger is part of the grief process.
Go on, John.
I was just saying, anger is part of the grief process.
When you have the institutions that you cite, like NASA and them, say that the Earth is flat and stationary and motionless when it comes to navigating over it with airplanes and so forth, and you can see NASA put out the document. We say, well, why would they do that? Why would they go against the globe paradigm? Why would anyone who claims to go into outer space, a violation of second law? Why would anyone who shows constantly pictures of a ball, a globe, a sphere, although at times it's warping from convex to concave and flat because of the wide angle lens and so forth that they use, or however they want to do it, backdrop, green screen, it doesn't matter. Why would they ever? And there's loads of them, that to navigate this Earth, it has to be flat and motionless. Why does that not wake somebody up?
Because when they see something like I haven't seen any of it because I don't care about it, but the recent footage from, was it NASA or whatever, that rocket launch, they see that and they want to write in a comment or in a live stream, what flat earthers will have nothing to say about this. It's like, what you're showing us there is subpar in comparison to what we were shown back in 1969. Because in 1969, they had to use some kind of real things because there wasn't CGI, right? And we knew like that was rubbish. So what would you what would make you think that 7, 8 years, or well, it was a long time, not more than 7 years for me with the moon landing, but I mean, for a lot of people, go back the past few years, and if you can see past the moon landing footage and all the rubbish there, like, why would you not see past any of this? especially considering cinematography and computer-generated graphics and everything else has moved on so much, and NASA have always been at the cutting edge of this. Why would you ever think that some rocket that NASA is sending up in the air is going to suddenly have some effect on me? You know, I don't have to give it a second thought. I know it's nonsense. I know it's a physics impossibility, what they're claiming. There's nothing, they can send up 1,000 rockets a day. It won't get my attention unless it's lifting off at the side of my house. Then obviously, you know what I mean? I'd have to notice it.
Yeah, but as kids, we used to have all kinds of little fireworks and rocket launchers. We used to do that kind of. We like seeing things go up in the sky, like little rockets we would make. There's nothing wrong with something going up at the sky, but they're telling you it's going into outer space, a vacuum, and then we got this gas pressure next to that vacuum, which is a violation of the second law. So the whole point is, can you ever have gas pressure without a container? So we've given the arguments. We've shown that they can send rockets up, and of course, at some point they start leveling off and don't go straight up, and then you lose sight of them. And then next thing you know, they cut away to CGI pictures. It's unbelievable to me how people fall for this.
Well,
I mean, when everyone agrees with it, I guess you can go with the crowd. But when there's opposition and there's proof that the opposition has to be called the opposition, and you look at that proof, and you say, you know, that's very logical there. That's a logical argument. I got to find an answer to that because that kind of upsets my paradigm and my whole worldview right now. Instead of doing that and researching, they double down. They get confirmation bias. They get all this stuff going. And next thing you know, they're fighting against something that has to be real or else. And then that's the fear that drives them, the or else.
Well, it's good to hear that Conspiracy Cats is finally getting angry, you know? Like, he's just one step away from acceptance now. I don't want him on Flat Earth's side, just so you guys know. But it's good for him.
Yeah. I mean, if someone wants to believe in the globe, I don't get angry. I just say, okay, fine. You want to avoid the evidence I just showed, that's fine. Have a good day.
Reckon we'll get to Becky before the end of the week?
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll get to Becky. We'll get to part 3 of Professor Dave with airplanes. I think is going to be a fun one.
You're going to be around for that, Brian?
I like what you're doing. Hmm?
I was asking Brian. Brian's like the man.
Yeah, I already set him up for it. I told him, he says he was happy it didn't happen today. So it was kind of good that I made the mistake by sending you part 4 before part 3. I didn't even know there was a part 4. I thought they clicked on the part 3.
Hold on. You told that guy in chat, I'll be tearing apart this show on my show tomorrow, and you didn't do it.
Yeah,
don't worry about that. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I was saying to Tent earlier, Nathan, I don't know, maybe you were making coffee or something. I was happy it didn't happen today. When the live show started, my back is after going out. When the live show started, I was so bad, I wasn't able to stand up. So I was thinking I might need to be brought to hospital there about an hour ago or so. But I'm used to it, so I got my act together now. And I'm moving around a bit. But I was thinking, oh no, I don't want it to happen today because I wouldn't be able to give it my attention.
Are you feeling okay?
Oh, I'm all right. My back is in a bad way. It goes out every now and again, and it goes out really bad every so often. And when it does that, I'm like, sometimes I'm crawling around on my arms, so it gets that bad. But I'm all right. So I'm back up and moving around now, so I'm going to keep on moving. But I was thinking earlier, oh no, I hope it doesn't happen today, because I was like in pain and I was frustrated with my back and with things being, you know, like you have stuff you want to do and have to do, and suddenly you can do nothing. That's what happens to me. Suddenly, just that's it. It's all over. You can do nothing. You just have to lie here, you know. And so I was like, oh no, I hope that doesn't happen, because I want to be involved in the Professor Dave thing, you know, with airplanes. So
yeah, that was a providence then, because I made the mistake. It should have been today, the airplane thing, but I made a mistake with part 3 and part 4 when I sent it to Nathan. So it worked out. It's gonna be fine. You'll be in better shape for that. But Nathan, let me ask you. You read the comments. I've read some of the comments. People really, really enjoying this format that you're doing right now, because it's helping them know how to use the housekeeping questions and the logical arguments within the arguments that these videos by the anti-flat earthers and ballers put out, because they get sent these videos and they need to know how to respond to them. And by you doing this format, you're showing them how to respond to them. Are you seeing that in your comments?
Absolutely. I saw it immediately as soon as we did the Dave and Jaron and Whitsitt and Hibbler video. So by critiquing flat earthers, it turned out that it's developed into a good format. But yeah, the positive comments started almost immediately. That's why we've done it more.
Yeah, I think it's one thing to have the tools. It's another thing to show people how to use the tools. And I think this format is actually doing that in a very successful way.
you know what I was thinking as well, Nathan, as a suggestion, is if we formulated alternative housekeeping questions. Like, remember the one I was saying about the airplanes there last week? I think it was. We could do several of them on disciplines similar to that. Like, could have submarines, airplanes, engineering, you know, just a couple of different disciplines. You know, how come this if not that? Or how come not that if this is true? You know, that kind of thing. Just things that people can take in, because I think, you know, the ordinary everyday person is not going to know what we mean when what's meant when they hear you say, is there any viable scientific hypothesis from the fields of astronomy, astrophysics, or cosmology, or whatever? They're going to go, I don't know what that really means. Do you know what I mean? They're going to go, well, that's all science. So they wouldn't always get that. You know, so maybe more simplistic housekeeping and alternative housekeeping questions might be good. You know.
I mean, yeah, just do it. Is what my attitude when it comes to things like that, Brian, is great idea. Just do it. I mean, obviously, I'm glad you asked. You know, you're talking about it first, so it's not just a shock. But just do it.
It's like a back to basics,
well, I was
isn't
going
it?
to come up with a few. Like,
That's why I'm suggesting it. You said you were thinking, or you had us come up with a few already. Just parrot them off. Be my guest. Not now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, as long as we don't get labeled for going back to 2015 arguments, there's a bunch of these.
Brian's talking about specific questions, nuanced questions that he's got in mind, I think.
Well, it's
Right.
just
Well,
sorry.
I was just going to say that me and Brian and I think 10th and some other people were talking about it. Some of the housekeeping questions are kind of aimed at subject matter experts. Like, I would love to be able to ask somebody who has a degree in astronomy to provide me with one viable hypothesis from the history of their field. You know what I mean? It's not as meaningful when you just ask a random anti-flat earther or baller. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually have a first cousin who works in the field of nuclear, and he's worked there for decades. So he's not someone new to it. And I have yet to talk to him. I haven't spoke to him for years, but I've yet, because he lives overseas. But I've yet to speak to him, and I want to have a conversation with him about what he does. And I want to ask him about how, I don't know how much he's used scientific method, but I want to know what his view is on things like astronomy and things like that. You know, so there's a lot. But unless you have someone like that to ask or to talk to about someone who will know what you're talking about. Like, he will know what scientific method is. You know, he spent a long time in university and then working within the field of nuclear before he ever got to having any position, because he's working in such obviously a dangerous field. But you know, I want to talk to him. But unless you have someone like that, who do you ask the questions to?
I think this Professor Dave and all that's good though, because all the anti-flat earthers, they're well into like him, aren't they? And Simon Dan. And then when this word gets round, they'll all be jumping on it and listening, and the word will just be spreading out there that these guys are getting ripped apart on Nathan's show. So really good.
I think in a lot of ways it's working out better with us just critiquing what they're saying in the videos than them coming in, and because you know what's going to happen is either Professor Dave either comes in and won't shut up, so he has to get muted, and then he claims he got muted, or he comes in and he just turns into a mouse. You know what I mean? You know, or he just starts insulting everyone. Either way, it's going to be nonsense. Whereas this is better. His claim is getting out there very audibly. Everyone can hear it because it's on his video.
Well, if he's got any manhood, he's going to make a rebuttal video. And that's going to be what we want. Him making the rebuttal video to these logical arguments that we're putting out there. And we'll see if he skates over it or actually addresses any one of them.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think a lot of time what these people do, because I've actually said it to some of these anti-flat earthers. I've said it to them. I've said, like, where they've commented on something or commented on a comment I have or something, and I've told them straight, do not go making a video and adding me into your video. I don't want to be part of your content creation. You know, because what they want to do is they want to get you into a back and forth situation. Not all of them, but a lot of them want to get you into a back and forth situation where you end up, all your focus is on this one person and their channel. You know, where you end up, like, it happens over on Bevs all the time. They're always in a loop with people like Blue Marble Science and people like that. Why would you be in a loop with Blue Marble Science? Why would you waste your time with that? You know, it's like, so you're constantly in a loop with the same people, you know, because these are the people that keep on wanting to respond to them. It's like you were shown, like Professor Dave has been shown to be wrong. No matter what he does, there's no real need for us to ever respond to it, and he does after that. If you know what I mean.
No,
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that, you know, kind of like QE does. It's like when they're gone kind of thing.
Well, Nathan asked him to come on the show after the Dave Weiss debate, and he hasn't. So then this format took off, and I got sent one of these I think I got sent part 3, which is the one I haven't put up yet. But and my friend said, someone like Nathan should really put this guy in his place. I mean, this was an email sent to me with this thing. And that's where I said, okay, well, it said part 3. How many parts are there? And I went and got. So I think it's important to address what Nathan has done, because the guy who sent it to me said he's so condescending and ad homing anyone who's a flat earther, but he's not saying anything. And so I said, yeah, you're right. So for me, this series, all 4 of them, when they're done, will be something I can just copy and paste and send out when someone ever brings up his name. And then they could, on their own, be either motivated to watch all 4 that Nathan goes through and that we go through with him, or not. It doesn't matter. I have a resource. I want that resource. I want one for Becky, because for 2 years she hasn't responded to my email. I want when we do Neil deGrasse Tyson, that's in the future. We have these resources we're giving to people. So then what they want to control, and the high priests like Neil deGrasse and them, they'll never come on the show. So the other guys come on the show, the lower level players, which we constantly call anti-flat earthers. Okay, well, forget them. We're wasting our time with them. By putting these video responses out, reviewing what these people say, we are arming everybody who gets inundated when they become in Flat Earth with Professor Dave and Neil deGrasse Tyson videos, but they don't know what to say. Well, here, just copy and paste. Send it to them. It's being said for you until you catch up to the knowledge. Because they're brand new Flat Earthers. They don't know how to argue these points. So it's going to take a little while to build that library of resources, but it's going to be great.
We started it though, right? It started, so now it'll be built up. Nathan is 8.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know enough about the subject, and they just listen to even 10 minutes of Nathan responding to Professor Dave's video, doing a reaction, because that's what it is. This is a live reaction video to Professor Dave's videos. And they hear anything that Nathan, and let's say Adam would have to say, right? Why I'm throwing in Adam there is because people, or everyday people, don't realize a lot of the time, not everyone now, but a lot of the time, they don't realize that just because someone has credentials or claims to have credentials, that doesn't instantly make them right or even makes their credentials worth anything. Whereas Adam has credentials that actually are worth something. Now, Nathan also has some credentials, but that's besides the point. It doesn't matter. The point is that someone can listen to this and they can hear somebody like Nathan who would just be an ordinary person to the person listening to the thing, tearing apart Professor Dave. And then you can have someone like Adam coming in, pointing out where Professor Dave is a false academic, basically, and not really the real deal. And that's from someone who is a real academic, someone who is the real deal. And they're going to go, these people are flat earthers. Do you know what I mean? Because what they're used to hearing when it comes to flat earthers is Bob Nodell type people talking rubbish.
Yep. And the funny, in the chat, in Dr. Becky's chat, somebody said to the guy, I guess the guy whose show it was, they said, please have Professor Nathan on. Something to that effect. I don't know if they were being sarcastic. They probably were, but it was kind of funny. That's right. On that show, he is a professor because you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, when it comes to the nature of our world, he is a subject matter expert.
Agreed.
So yeah, if you want to come up with that nonsense, yeah, he is. He has a PhD in reality.
No, I don't.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but what else would you call yourself? How else would you term it?
I don't need to define what I am. I don't know what the point of this is, to be honest, but fair enough.
No, it's just look. It's even better that he's not a professor, doesn't have a PhD. It's much better than that. The arguments are solid. If you listen to the first, second, and today was the third, and we got one more from Dave to go through, or any of it, of any critique that Nathan has done, he's stuck to his arguments. It's consistent. He doesn't change. He's showing you a pattern of logic. He asks the same question. He holds against everything they say. Nathan is holding against the backdrop of real science versus pseudoscience, the scientific method, when it's violated, when it's followed. And when people listen to enough shows, when the subject is not Dave, but Dr. Becky or somebody else, they'll say, wow, this guy's fairly consistent in the way he brings all these people down. This is something I could do because it's the same evidence that destroys all their claims. And you don't have to have a PhD for that. I mean, my goodness, all you got to do is use logic and have a validity to your arguments.
It's funny you mentioned pseudoscience because Nathan actually called her a pseudoscientist in the chat. And the guy was like, whoa, take it easy now. Everybody is entitled to their beliefs. Unbelievable, right?
No, that's fine. As long as she says it's a belief, but she did it.
I'll give that guy a plug because I actually quite like him. I knew I recognised him from somewhere and I didn't know where until the end of that Becky video. Presumably because I haven't watched all of his videos to the end. I've only just started watching him. But at the end he pointed out that he's an ex-BBC journalist that just got sick of the constraints of being a BBC journalist. So like, okay, so you've got some credibility. Excellent. So I'll plug that guy. As I say, I've just subscribed to him.
Hang on. Did the ex-BBC journalist talk about control features in the news media?
No. The reason I've started watching him is because he was covering Scientology specifically. I'm just interested in Scientology because it is a spin-off of heliocentrism. It's very specific in terms of what it is. And it's a religion.
I'm referencing Professor Dave saying that there are no control entities in the world. And here's a BBC journalist saying, because of the overwhelming control, I decided to leave because I'm not free to do what I want to do.
Oh, right. No. He didn't mean that. Dave's right.
I think we should rename Professor Dave Prophetic Dave. Prophetic, not Professor.
Yeah, it don't matter what we call him. He's just a pretender.
Not prophetic. He doesn't even see questions coming.
Pathetic, not prophetic.
Isn't it uncanny that it'll be it's 8 years now for Betty, it'll be 9 years for Betty, right? And 8 years for me and Nathan and a few others next year. And we're all in it for years now. That Scientology hasn't addressed us even one time.
No, that's why I'm looking at it.
What?
Scientology is an interesting subset of heliocentrism, Arwin. And everything that we attack, everything that we pull apart in terms of the nature of Earth, is part of their religion. It's the keystone to their religion because it's a heliocentric religion. What Brian's saying is, given that they have, maybe this is why, because they've got all the protection they ever need from within their contracts, within their own ranks, they don't need to address this. What benefit does it serve? It doesn't. But they're no more or less cult-like than the rest of society, as far as I'm concerned. If anything, the rest of the world with just a bog-standard heliocentric belief are more bound by things that they are unaware of because they're unaware of them. So at least the people in Scientology are going into it with a semi-open-eyed view to what it is. And there's plenty of media out there to tell them, oh, it's not good if you're a heliocentrist to believe that you've got this Xenu and regressing through past lives to figure out what you've done wrong and all the rest of the things that Scientology or Scientologists do. They can look at that with an open eye, make their own decision when they sign their contracts with the church, right? Heliocentrists, normies, don't get that opportunity, do they? As the Matrix would put it, they're born into bondage.
Right. Okay.
I think that's what it'll get packaged up as. That's how it's kept alive. You don't just kill off a paradigm, right? Like with Einsteinian superseding Newtonian, you still have the Newtonian prevalent in certain areas because it's still required for the religion. So you don't just get rid of it. Now, if, for the sake of argument, we saw the heliocentric collapse, how do you keep a paradigm that's been so useful in indoctrinating an entire world alive? Well, you keep it alive as a religion. So what's the religion going to be? Well, there is only one that actually is a religion that's got all of the religious privileges alongside it, and that's Scientology. So when you see things that parallel out from Scientology in heliocentrism with the various different alien aspects that we get in the 21st century from heliocentrism, you think, yeah, there's a good chance that should it fail, it'll be packaged up and put on the shelf, nice and neat, in the form of Scientology. There'll still be people in the religion practicing it and keeping it alive and documenting it, just to be recycled again in, 300 or 400 years, when they need to change the control system, just like described in 1984.
Yeah, I agree.
Good point, Nathan.
No, I was going to say, it all started with L. Ron Hubbard, who was a sci-fi writer with Dianetics. And they turned that into Scientology and they made a religion out of it.
And isn't it funny how a lot of Roman Catholics line right up with L. Ron Hubbard? I remember my cousin as a teenager gave me that book to read, Dianetics.
Maybe he was just chucking it out. Thought he needed something to read.
Well, I like your point, Nathan, on how Scientologists get to see what they're getting into before they get into it. Whereas the heliocentrism, you're just in it, whether you like it or not. And that's that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the pre-assigned state religion. So if you don't have a religion or count yourself as an atheist, well, no, we'll give you a religion.
Right, it's a secular religion.
Oh, what?
Yeah, Tom Cruise. He's going to go into space now.
Hold on.
What? What's going on?
Nothing's going on. Just nobody's talking.
Oh.
I said Tom Cruise is going into space, and nobody said nothing.
He's not going into space.
That's what the title of that video. That's the title of the video with Dr. Becky. Tom Cruise going into space, and Dr. Becky's there talking about that exact thing. Obviously, she's the person to affirm the belief in space being real. But there's the parallel, right? So within a couple of weeks of me thinking, this Scientology thing, that'd be interesting to look at. Maybe it'll develop into something that we can talk about on the show. And then literally within a couple of weeks, Dr. Becky's on there affirming the Scientologist's affirmation that he's going off to the lands of the heaven that he describes. That's space.
I tried to watch that video. I got about 5 minutes in, and then I literally got nauseated. I mean, I guess I'm not as tolerant for Becky nonsense as I used to be. It's really gross.
It's because she's just making crap up. She's literally talking crap, making up stories.
Yeah, but she
talking
was
about
getting
how
like
she's
nitpicky with measurements that are like complete nonsense. Like, oh yes, you know that a black hole is just typically the size of a tennis ball. Yes, of course.
Yeah, but did you hear how much power is in a black hole, Arwen?
Yeah, but, come on.
Like that?
It literally made me sick. It made me so sick that I actually didn't do a show this morning. I blamed that video, watching it last night for 5 minutes, and then had to stop. It was that gross.
You go in a black hole with your head first. She said something weird describing the power of a black hole.
Yeah, the whole thing was weird, and it felt so like icky. There was something really gross about it. I don't know what it is.
Heliocentrism is the black hole.
You're right.
It is. Yeah.
It's got a lot of power.
I just hope she wasn't secretly talking about her ass.
okay. Way to kill the conversation, Arwen.
You're welcome.
But she talks very convincingly. Like she believes. I think she believes everything she's saying.
Yeah, of course.
Wait.
Nobody's accusing her of not believing. No one's accusing her of intentional malice and deceit. No. That doesn't mean we can't debunk every word she says.
Agreed.
She is an enthusiast and delusional, and she really thinks that her conjurations are just the real thing. She thinks that because she calculated all that using math, that it must be real. She's that type.
Theoretical science, man.
Yeah, but
with the massive short-term reification of it, like really thinking that makes it real. I mean, when she says, I'm doing email and that makes me a scientist, I bet she actually believes that.
Yeah, but did you see the look in her eyes? Like, it's this kind of look of wonderment. It's like, I'm not living in the real world. That's what her eyes tell me.
You're saying
like,
she's an
like
airhead?
cow eyes.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, she strikes me as an airhead. She's learnt something, she can parrot it, and it makes her excited. Yeah, she's an airhead.
Yeah.
How can she be an airhead? How can the pressure be contained?
Well, the skull can be a container for sure.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
You know, I have no doubt that Becky would have been watching her own show yesterday on that Andrew Gold or whatever it's called. He's got a very long title to his YouTube channel. Need to address that, mate, friend. Not that I should be saying that, given you've got double the amount of subscribers as me, but there we go. Either way, he's got a long, convoluted YouTube name, which I will dig out when we actually go through it properly. But yeah, she will have been watching. She'll have seen that premiering stream, waiting for it to come out for the first time, having recorded it. And she'll have sat back with her cup of tea and then seen me in the chat talking about how crap she was. So, you know, previously, leaving a comment on her video, she gets thousands, right? That's very different when you've only got a couple of hundred people in a stream, in the live chat, and you can actually read what's going by.
She was probably only watching herself.
Contact her. Sorry, come on.
No, I don't know about contacting her, just debunking her. You know, she's out on the circuit. She's talking about the world being a sphere.
No,
it's fair game.
No, what I was trying to say is her mods might contact her because her mods will have seen you in the chat. So the mods or whoever's mods. Was it her live stream or was it someone else's live stream?
It was someone else's. So she's a guest on someone else's live stream. How many times have you been a guest on someone else's live stream and not watched?
Never. I hope she sees that too, because I hope it gets her attention.
Why? All I want to do is debunk her nonsense.
Right. So she could see her nonsense get debunked right there, right in the chat. Not an answer for it.
Yeah, my point is that the wonderment that she experiences may only be there because nobody's ever challenged her. The reason I'm suggesting that she might have actually been watching means that if she has been, there may be a different reaction. We may see a different side to her.
That's what I'm saying too. Nobody's reacting like you were reacting. She'll get people that agree with her and worship her, but not what you did.
Yeah, but I've been there during Becky live streams a while ago, and then like get in the chat, and she would take notice that there's flat earthers there, and like get this real scared look, like oh shit, and then ended the stream quickly. Like as soon as she sees a real flat earther like actually making technical arguments, she just shuts the stream down. She's not like gonna go into a discussion.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
During the actual live streams that she does sometimes, like a sort of a journal thing and answering questions. Well, as soon as a flat earther gets in there, she just rounds out quickly.
Hello, gentlemen.
Sort of like what she did with that guy. What is it? From, the Wiki guy? When she found out he was a flat earther?
Oh, you're talking about Wakey.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, she's all for confessions of, yeah, we just change the model if it doesn't work properly. Yeah, if it doesn't comport with reality, we just adjust it. Doesn't matter, it's just a model. We can make any changes we like. All right, thanks for having me. By the way, I'm a flat earther. Oh, well, I wouldn't have talked to you at all if I'd have known that. I wouldn't have been saying some of the things I said that are devastating had I have known that you don't agree with me.
What's up, everyone? Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hey, D-Rose.
Hey, hello. What's going on? I'm the one with the dissertations on the comments.
I love it. Keep it up. I love the fact that you put timestamps. That's fantastic, by the way.
Well, I have to. That way I don't have to have someone coming out the blue with a robot account trying to make a sarcastic remark way off subject, trying to take me out of context. But I love what you're doing. I love what all y'all are doing. And I'm just new to this, especially even on the chat thing. So me and Righteous had a,
My God, you cannot tell. The way you summarize the comments, the way you detail it, doesn't seem like you're new to me.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, not am I expressing my views, but I'm talking about as far as this Discord thing. I only done it one time on a thing called Clubhouse. This is another one which I gave up because the moderators just let it go chaos, and you can't really get your point in. People interrupt and everything. And that's one thing I appreciate the way you run the thing. You know, you don't let anybody come in and interject, or you do like an attorney, you object someone that you catch them in the fallacy, and then you explain the objection. So some people don't appreciate that. They were saying that on the chat, you know, the text chat, and I had to break it down, you know, and was 777, he or she agreed. I don't even know what the gender is. People on this, you can't hear their voice. But anyway, I have to say about Dave, the wannabe professor. He's probably the only person that I cannot tolerate on the entire cyberspace forum. I've never witnessed such. It's one thing to be inadvertently ignorant, but to be arrogantly ignorant, narcissistic with it, that is the epitome of the definition of a charlatan. Because either he believes what he says, and that's why he's so assertive with it, and how he can say it so confidently with his, you know, or he's reading a script, which he sounds like he is, especially that video that you showed and played in the background. It's like Neil deGrasse is like a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, savior of humanity compared to Dave. Because you know, you can read Neil. He knows how to sound ignorant, but in a way of like, oh, bless his heart. But this guy, Dave, the way he comes off is like, I mean, even to be using the orgy sex things into his analogy. I mean, just things like that is just, I don't understand it, you know? And I also agree with you how you was breaking down how the other guys, I'm not going to mention their name, but you know what I'm talking about, the other four, how they can sit up there in the panel against one heliocentric person and can't catch the things that even me, being a freshman sophomore at this game, can catch. And how they let things slip by.
I need you to keep up with this new patient. He's filling out his paper.
As you see, I'm at work. But I just want to say, keep up the good work. I'm going to try to be on here more often. I appreciate it. I even let my children hear it when there's no, you know, adult words being said. And my children, 8 and 6 years old.
Oh, they saw that show too? Such a long time ago.
They know the truth. They know the truth.
Oh, it's nice to hear
What's
from
up,
you.
George?
I really appreciate your comments. And like I say, I really appreciate you timestamp them. But more often than not, I have clicked on almost every single one of your timestamps. Not because I'm, you know, double checking that what you've put is correct, but I want to, you know, it intrigues me how the comment ties with the timestamp pit that you've picked in the show. So yeah, really appreciate it.
Yeah, that kind of gives more of an idea what I'm talking about, so it doesn't get misconstrued. But one reply you sent before I go, you sent the cloud with the sun. I didn't really, you know, hey, I'm not computer illiterate, but I'm just not too much on the linguistics of the emojis. What was that? Was that like sunshine, like bright sunshine, like finally somebody gets the picture type of thing?
No.
It was a cloud.
The only reason I ever put a cloud is if somebody's talking about gas going down or gravity.
Gotcha.
That's the only reason I put that emoji.
I assumed that's what it was. Okay, cool. All right,
if it was in a chat,
I'll be back on here later.
Somebody asserted it yesterday in that chat that Becky was in. I think it was Becky. Shocking. And she's talking about gas going down because she's talking about everything going down with a gravitational force. So my reaction in the chat is to put a cloud or a balloon and ask the chat, which way is this going? Are you unaware of clouds? Are they going down?
Upward.
Up.
Look at the next level of panel members and contributors. The audience is growing in content, logic, arguments, coming in with their skill set, their gifts. I can only imagine if you keep this up, what your show's going to be like in 1 or 2 years.
Probably exactly the same. That's what Nathan's going to say.
Oh no! I look at this guy. Look at all the others we know of.
6 months.
No, I really hope that this slight change in format really does, because really does boost it, because the way things were in the past was the way they had to be for the time. But then it got to the point where the opposition weren't crowning up. So what the way the usual show used to go, like, it stopped going that way. So this is a good direction to take things.
And it happened organically, right? It started with the treatment, and then it just branched out to Nathan Oakley doing the treatment. So it is organic.
Organic and good, because I can see the statistics going up. So the show's got about 30 or 40% more views. So that in itself is a win.
No, I hope it's a really, and I hope, see, the thing about it is that I think this show can branch out a bit more now, because it's got to the point where, yeah, we have definitive proof for everything we say. If we make a claim, we have definitive proof, objective proof that what we're saying is true. We don't have to worry about it. It's people who don't have that are worried. People with channels who don't have that are worried.
Well, it's really packaging of what we're used to in the easy giveaway method, meaning when a brand new person comes to Flat Earth and they are directed to Flat Earth because of a Professor Dave video or a Neil deGrasse Tyson statement or Dr. Becky or, just something where they have no background in it. That's what they send to me. That's what they send to you. That's what they send to their Flat Earth friends. To have a resource to say, oh, yeah, well, look at this, where we tore apart all the arguments and send back with the review of Neil deGrasse Tyson, of Professor Dave and the likes thereof. And then they'll say, oh, my gosh, my esteem of these people just went down based on this video. These people don't know what they're talking. They're crazy. And so they don't want this. They would rather have the old days, Brian, but this is going to be more deadly.
That's right. They don't want the old days because it wasn't getting heard. Now they're going to be hearing it. They don't want to come to us. Well, go to you.
Well, they're gonna come to us to stop where we're going, because this is devastating. And you just have to play it out a few more months, Nathan. This is gonna be devastating. They can't handle this format. I'm telling you now. This format will get them to stop their boycott.
Well, reaction videos are massive. Sorry.
Go on, Brian.
Yep.
No, I stepped on you, Nathan. I'll go after you. Go on, you say it, please.
I was just saying, what boycott?
What do you mean, what boycott? They announced it.
Did they? Just to me.
No, they announced it.
Yeah, the anti-Flat Earth boycott, yeah.
Boycott of what?
You've been on boycott for years, Nathan. Come on.
Oh, Brian. Boycott of what?
They boycotted this show, Nathan. They decided to boycott this show. And it came very soon after January 2020. Complete boycott of the show. Because you were mean.
Because I'm mean. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
You got the boycotters, and then you got supposed people on our team saying hashtag end Flat Earth. But it doesn't matter, because it ain't going to end.
What D. Rose said a minute ago, when he brought up Professor Dave and how he's the one person that he can't listen to. My friend, a couple of years ago, I think it was 2019, I was talking online. In one of the times I was debating him with Fight the Flat Earth, Craig McNeil. My friend is totally not a flat earther and all that. And he said, I can't stand that guy. That's what he said to me. I got annoyed just hearing his voice, he said, just the way he spoke. And my friend is not a flat earther. So there's bound to be a lot of people out there who hear Professor Dave, and you see it in the comments. when he was against David Weiss. In fairness to David Weiss held it together. He kept his cool. And the comments were going, this Professor Dave, he's a bit of an a-hole. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so people, that kind of bad behavior that Professor Dave has, that kind of bad attitude and bad behavior that he displays, like that is noticed even by people who would consider themselves to oppose what we would say. You know, general people in the general public, it is noticed. Because my friend to this day remembers Craig. He remembers hearing Craig. He said, "Oh, that guy." I only have to say Craig to him, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about. And he has never seen him. He hasn't been on his channel. He just remembers him because the way Craig was going about things was so annoying to him. So, I mean, people like Professor Dave, they're not really getting the message out there, are they?
No. And here's another thing. Here's something that annoys me. I don't want to hear that people are sticking to their model like Dave and Neil deGrasse Tyson. Until I see a model, I don't want to hear that. Well, they're sticking with the heliocentric model. What model? I haven't seen one yet.
Right on. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!